We had dreams, hopes, and ambitions, some more realistic than others. Some of them were far-fetched, but we held on to them all the same. My best friend was Luke. He was a drummer in the school marching band, and by most accounts, he was really good at it. He played soccer and baseball, but music was his first love, and Chloe was his second. Chloe had been Luke's girlfriend for as long as I could remember. They'd been together since 7th grade and were still going strong in their senior year. It was Chloe who got Luke into band. She played the flute but came from a musical family, so she could also play guitar, a little bass, some banjo, and various percussion instruments. Chloe's best friend was Lily. I knew Lily better than Chloe when I was younger, mostly because we went to the same church. Lily played piano for the youth choir, and I should know. I was part of that choir, reluctantly forced into it by my mom at age 9, until I could finally escape at 17. My name is Ethan. I'm not musical. I rarely listen to music, and when I do, it's usually not for long. I prefer to read books or write stories of my own. People tell me I have a pleasant singing voice, but I can't read music. I never could, even when the collection hit it big. I can say without hesitation that it was all Chloe's fault. Her family was having some kind of gathering, and she invited us all to join. It was a weekend camping trip that sounded fun enough. Chloe left out a couple of details. First, her whole extended family was full of serious musicians. I knew her dad was the local high school band director and that her mom taught music at the elementary schools, but I had no idea how deep the musical talent ran in her family. Her uncle was an opera singer, her cousin was a session musician in Nashville, and her niece was a piano prodigy. The second thing Chloe didn't mention was that this family get-together was more like an extended talent show. The little kids kicked off Friday night with musical skits they'd obviously been practicing for months. Saturday afternoon featured a square dance and a hoedown, complete with country and western music from various family members. Saturday night, the adults performed duets and solo acts. And then came Sunday morning. Sunday morning was for newcomers. Apparently, Luke and Lily knew what was expected and came prepared. Luke with his drum kit, a bass, lead guitar, and an electric keyboard. Lily handed me a list of songs and took my arm, her plan already in motion. I looked over the list, an eclectic mix of Jewel, the Commodores, country ballads, and a duet from Patti Smythe and Don Henley. I nodded, appreciating the variety, then realized what Lily was doing. "No way," I said. "You know the words to all these," she insisted. "The ones with an asterisk are the ones you sing lead on." I dug in my heels. Please," she pleaded. "Come on, no one will know. Chloe's family will go back to wherever they came from, and you'll never have to see them again. I've heard you sing. It'll be awesome. We can't do it without you. You've got the best voice of all of us." She looked like she might cry, so I gave in. It wasn't as bad as I expected. For the songs I wasn't singing, I just stood in the background, not knowing what to do. I couldn't play an instrument and I couldn't sing harmony, so I just did my best to stay out of the way. Chloe's family went wild after our performance of 7 Bridges Rode by the Eagles. We had different styles. Luke's soft tenor reminded me of Billy Joel, Chloe's hard alto was more like Beth Hart, and Lily's sweet voice worked best for ballads like Martina McBride's. I just sang what they put in front of me, mimicking the melody as best I could, even if I had no idea what chord we were in or if I was off pitch. It was fun while it lasted. Chloe's grandmother gave us our name, the collection. Afterward, she patted each of us on the shoulder and said, "What a fine collection of voices we have here today." On the way home, Luke, Chloe, and Lily started plotting how to include me in their garage band. Meanwhile, I was thinking about what I'd have for dinner. I turned down their offers to join the group, mostly because I was embarrassed. I had no talent, no rhythm, and no training. I couldn't even play a tambourine without messing it up. I didn't want to put in the effort they did to improve. I was 16, lazy as hell, and not interested in spending my Saturday nights rehearsing the same song over and over, like they did. No, I was happier cruising the strip, hoping to meet a girl who might actually talk to me. I wasn't one of the cool kids at school. I played baseball, but I wasn't a star. Luke was way better than I was, until he gave up the game to focus on music. I didn't get straight A's, so I wasn't part of the nerd crowd either. I didn't get my first computer until the summer before college, and I quickly discovered the world of internet adult movies. But that's another story. I interacted with different groups. My parents were strict, but they taught me to respect others. I didn't make fun of the geeks, I didn't look down on the band kids, and I didn't idolize the football players. I was just me. It was no secret to Luke that I had a crush on Lily since I was old enough to notice girls. Lily was my idea of the perfect woman. She was tall, slender, with long blonde hair that cascaded down her back. She was just a little shorter than my 6-foot frame. She had a laugh that made me smile and the greenest eyes I'd ever seen. No contacts needed. I still sigh a little bit each time I think about her, like now. Still, I saw right through the additional attention Lily began to show me. First, she asked me to drive her to and from school because she was still 2 months from getting her license. Then she asked me to help her with a history report, and Lily was a straight-A student. Then she began hinting that I should ask her to homecoming, even though she could have her pick of almost any guy in the school. But I was paranoid enough to know that her attention was a ploy to get me to sing with her, Luke, and Chloe. So I went to the homecoming dance with Marcy Detweiler. Not one of my brighter moves. First, Marcy had just broken up with her very scary boyfriend a week or so before. And second, Lily was highly pissed off at me. I mean, terminally pissed. Luke and Chloe were right behind her. Me? Well, I just pleaded ignorant. I stopped to pick up Lily for school on Monday, just like I always did, but she told me she would rather walk that ride with me. What did I do? I asked innocently. Screw you, she replied. It was as close as I had ever come to hearing Lily swear. I would later learn she knew all the words but used them only when necessary. Is this about Marcy? I asked. Lily just stared at me for a moment, then walked off toward school. I figured to hell with it and drove that way myself. But as I glanced in the rearview mirror as I drove past Lily, I saw she was crying. Now I felt like a complete a-hole. I would suppose with good reason, too. I pulled the car to the side of the road and walked back to Lily. I almost begged you to take me to that dance, she said through her tears. I let you know in every way I possibly could that I wanted to go with you. But instead you take that 3-0 Marcy Detweiler. Is that what it was about? Did you just want to get laid? Nothing like that, I said, only half lying. I figured you could get any guy in the school to go to the dance with you. The only reason I could come up with that you would go with me is to try to entice me to sing with your group. Lily stood with her arms crossed. I would like you to sing with the group, she answered. But we've also known each other for years. It would have been fun to go with you. As friends, I supplied. Lily's lip twitched and she lowered her eyes. Yes, she answered reluctantly. As friends. And the reason I asked Marcy because I didn't want to go to homecoming with someone as friends, I answered. You and I can be friends somewhere other than dances. But it was fun dancing with you at Chloe's family reunion, she insisted. You're taller than I am. And I knew you wouldn't try any funny stuff. I shrugged and sighed. The offer for a ride is still open, I said. I knew we had reached an impasse. Luke and Chloe were waiting the parking lot when we arrived. I could tell both were excited and I had barely parked when they pulled Lily away and walked quickly toward the school, talking animatedly. I was left standing beside my car. Lily filled me in on the excitement on the way home. Neither Luke nor Chloe had spoken to me since I asked Marcy to homecoming. Somehow I was surviving the freeze. Chloe's cousin had recorded our impromptu concert during the summer and had played it for one of her friends without telling him where she got it. The guy was in charge of a soundtrack for an animated movie, and he thought we had the right blend of complementary vocal skills to compile 3 or 4 songs. He even sent us some songs, Lily exclaimed. Look at this. These are great songs. You could totally sing these. I looked at it, but I couldn't for the life figure out how it would sound. Unless I could convince someone to sing it for me, there would be no way for me to tell what they would sound like. You would have to sing it first, I said, and I'm sure your version would be much better than mine. So why don't you sing them? Lily was silent. If we get someone to demo them, would you try it? She asked. If you can get someone to demo it, why not get them to sing it? I replied. It's just not my thing, Kel. Lily huffed. What is your thing? She asked sarcastically. I'm not really sure, I said, but I know I don't feel the same excitement about getting on stage as the 3 of you do. I sing in the shower, and I sing along with the radio when I'm driving, but performing in front of others just isn't my thing. Lily looked out the side window. You're in the church choir, she said flatly. Because Mom makes me, I said. This is the last year I'll be in it too. I already told her that after the Christmas thing, I'm done with it. If she wants to ground me until college, so be it. I don't mind being an anonymous voice at church, but I don't want to be out front. Lily, I wouldn't ask you to play catch with me. I wouldn't ask you to go fishing with me. I wouldn't ask because I know you think it's something you wouldn't enjoy. I wouldn't enjoy those things, she said quickly. How do you know? I asked. Have you been fishing with me? Have we ever tossed the ball around? Of course not, she said. Well, then you can't be sure, I replied. But I have sung with you. I have stood up in front of a crowd and been so embarrassed and scared I could hardly move. It's not something I enjoy. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I just don't want to put forth that much effort. Lily was silent for the rest of the ride home. She finally spoke as she opened the door. It's our big chance, she said, and it might be our only chance. She was gone before I could reply. You probably know how it turned out. Well, if you saw Tiger Tales, you do. And since the animated movie brought in more than $200 million, I'm betting you've at least heard of it, especially if you have kids. My mother, of all people, made a rational argument. She didn't insist I do it. She didn't tell me I had to do it. She simply asked me if I was willing to be responsible for my 3 closest friends missing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Of course, I wasn't. And I also didn't think for a moment that we'd get anywhere farther than the garage. So I relented. I spent 3 days with Lily going over the melody. She would play it on the keyboard, and I would do my best to impersonate the sounds. It wasn't as difficult as I expected it to be. It was 3 times as hard. With each mistake, we would stop what we were doing and rework the offending section. I know it was frustrating to Luke, Chloe, and Lily, but it was 10 times as frustrating for me. After all, I was the one who was committing most of the mistakes. And I was the one who really wasn't interested in being there in the first place. Finally, after 3 consecutive weeks of 8-hour practices, we decided that we were as ready as we would ever be for our demo session. Of course, none of us had any idea what we were doing. We also had no idea that studio time is booked in 3-hour blocks. We had 4 songs ready and Chloe's cousin insisted it wasn't enough. Jeff just sent those to you to try out, she said. Don't you have other songs? Of course we didn't, I thought angrily. The only songs we know are ones we would have to pay copyright fees to perform. None of us wanted to go that route. Finally, Luke lit upon an answer that the girls readily agreed to, and an answer that I insisted was not going to happen in this lifetime. Luke, being my best friend and longtime confidant, knew my most intimate secrets. He knew about my infatuation with Lily, and he also knew that I had penned more than 24 poems to her. Poems that she didn't know about and poems I saw no need for her to know about then. Most certainly they were poems. Heartfelt commentary about unrequited love that should never be set to music regardless of the reason. I will admit that some of them were pretty decent. Several had been published in young writers' periodicals. After thorough editing, Luke put forth the idea that we take some of my words and let the 3 of them craft the melody to go around them. I refused instantly and loudly. Then write something else, Chloe insisted. I had no idea you were a poet. That is so cool. How long do you think it would take? Let's see, I thought. I've been in love with Lily for almost 8 years, and I've written about 25 poems, perhaps 3 or 4 of which were good enough for public consumption. For divided by 8 is 1/2 divided by 12 months is, well, that is too much math for me. It will take longer than we have, I said flatly. I write about what I know, about what I feel. I can't just sit down and write a song. Well, maybe I could, but I definitely can't just sit down and write a song I'd be willing to share with anyone. There were harsh looks all around, mostly directed at me. I know of 3 of your poems that we could use immediately, Luke said. He sounded somewhat abashed. I've already worked out a half-assed arrangement for them. Sorry, man. I copied them out of one of your notebooks last year. Now I was livid. You did what? I yelled. You stole my personal creative property? Those were my private thoughts. Did you plan to tell me, or were you just going to arrange them and try to sell them? Hold on, Luke said. I thought they were great. Last winter, when I stayed at your house for a couple of weeks, I was looking for a book on something that wasn't boring. I found your notebook and man, I was blown away. You two should read his stuff, he said to the girls. It's amazing. It's like you're seeing the world through his eyes. Man, a couple of them made me cry. I was not consoled in the least. At least listen to what I've put together, he pleaded. You can change the words if you want, but I wouldn't change them if I were you. You're not me, I declared. If you were, you would realize how intensely betrayed I feel right now. Screw you and screw your band. I turned to leave, but Lily caught my arm. Ethan, I know how you feel, she started. I was in no mood to be patronized. Really, Lily, I said. Then why don't you go get your diary and we'll take a couple months worth of your thoughts and I'll write a song about it. She looked at the floor for a moment. Okay, she said. You can go through my diary. I'll go home and get it now if you want. You don't even need to write anything from it. You can just read it if you want. Chloe had been standing silently. She really leads a boring life, Ethan, she said, trying to inject humor into the situation. It's probably just a list of what she had for dinner and what she plans to wear to school the next day. At least it was the last time I stole it and looked at it. Lily turned quickly and stared at Chloe before she realized she was joking. Still, Chloe had done what she set out to do. My anger had been diffused. Before I agree to anything, I said, I want to know which ones you took. Luke stared into space. The first day of winter, view from a fool, and style over substance, he said guiltily. I ran a finger through my short hair. Without hearing the words, let us hear what you've put together, I insisted. Luke seemed at a loss for words. Well, I have score sheets, but they have the lyrics on them. I can't play it on anything but Lily or Chloe could. His eyes beseeched me to agree. Chloe and Lily were standing still. I worked on it all through composition class, Luke said. It was my project last semester. Chloe's dad says it is the best he's ever had in his class. So, Chloe's dad is privy to my thoughts, too? I asked. Why don't you just post it on the web? I'm sorry, Luke insisted. It sounded like a whine. It's just all that talent sitting there. These are great songs. Not just good songs, but great ones. Please, let Lily's site read them for you. Style over substance is more up-tempo. I think you'll like it. I nodded grudgingly. You and I are going to have a talk about personal boundaries, I said. But sure, let's see how everyone reacts to it. It may suck, no matter what your personal opinion is. It didn't suck. Lily had to start over a couple of times when Luke changed keys unexpectedly, and she stopped cold in the middle of the second try when she realized what, or rather who and when, the poem was about. I had written in more than a year prior, before I realized that Lily was not interested in me in any fashion other than a friend. I had asked her a week before to accompany me to a carnival in town, and she had agreed. But at the last minute, she got a better offer, to go to the movies with one of the more popular boys in school. She told me she wasn't allowed to go out that night, but I saw her and Mike Dalton leaving the theater. I had never mentioned it to her, or to anyone. Neither Luke nor Chloe could have known what some of the symbolism I used represented. But Lily certainly did. Try it again, faster this time, Luke suggested. Let's try another one, Lily said. I'm not crazy about this one. Chloe's voice boomed through the garage. What don't you like? She yelled. My God, I love it. But he's right. It needs a little more tempo. Luke, set the beat. I'll get the bass going. Ethan, can you sing it? Do you remember the words? Lily was silently fuming. By heart, I said without emotion. I really don't think it'll work for us, Lily insisted. Then the other ones won't either, I stated. Lily stammered and tears welled up in her eyes. She turned and fled the garage. Lily doesn't want to do your songs, Luke told me later that evening. I thought that one was just a good story. Is it about her, too? I shrugged. If Lily doesn't want to do them, we won't do them, I said. It was what I worried about from the very beginning. There are things I wrote that only I know about. But there are other things that others may recognize. Luke looked at me. Did she really lie to you to go out with some other guy? He wondered. That doesn't sound like Lily. I shrugged again. If it works, stick with it. That's my motto. You know what the song is about, I said. You saw how she reacted. I will let you draw your own conclusions. Damn, he said sadly. How could you even be friends with her after that? Why not? I asked. She made it clear that she didn't think of me in that way. I doubt she even looked at our plans as a date. I laughed bitterly. If she only knew how much courage it took me to ask her, I said. Luke nodded. So, what's plan B? I asked. With the songs. Luke was still looking at the table. Can you write something else? He asked. Something that, won't piss Lily off? Can I, or will I? I replied. They have two separate answers. Yes, I probably can sit down and write something else. But I am unwilling to expend that much time and energy because Lily's feelings are hurt. I've already given up what passes as a social life for the past month. Now you want me to donate more time to a project that really isn't mine? Sorry, Luke. You know I would do about anything for you. I hope I've proven that in the past few weeks. But even if I write something, you'll have to take the time to compose the score. How long did that take you? Luke groaned. We were hoping you might be able to write something that goes with the scores I've already done, he said. We? I wondered. He sighed. No, he said with his head up. She was wondering that. If it was as easy as she makes it sound, songwriters would not be paid for their work, I replied. Not that I've been paid for my work. But, you get my point. I hope, I added. He patted me on the arm and left my room. I returned to my Robert Ludlum novel. Chloe was the next one to stop by. I had no idea, she said. And I doubt Lily did, either. Luke never said anything. I thought you were buds with her like you are with me. I raised my eyebrows. Really? I asked. I tried not to fall all over myself. But, in all the time you've known me, has there ever been a time I didn't eventually relent to whatever Lily wanted? Chloe looked pensive, as if she were searching her memories. No, she said. I can't really think of anything. And have there been times I have refused to do something for you or Luke? I asked. She laughed out loud. Dozens, she said, possibly bordering on hundreds. I guess I should have known. But why didn't you say anything to her? What do you think that poem was about? I asked her. Oh, shit, she said and covered her mouth. You asked her to go out with you. She said yes, and then went out with someone else. Her eyes went wide as she replayed the lyrics in her head. She lied to you about it, she said incredulously. She did. Didn't she? She told me she was grounded, I replied. We were supposed to go to the carnival. Instead, she canceled and went to the movies with another guy. So I guess the fact that she felt the need to lie to me disproves your theory about her never suspecting. I guess you're right, she agreed. Her eyes fell on mine again. And she only found out today that you knew all along she lied to you, she added. On another topic, I can understand what Luke was saying about your poems. Even with Lily singing it, I could feel the disappointment and then the betrayal. It was moving. Now that I know it is a true story, it's even more moving. Damn, how did you sit down and put what you were feeling into words? I was back to the shrug. What other choice did I have? I said. I didn't want to keep it bottled up, and I didn't want to put you and Luke in an awkward position by asking you to choose sides. So, I wrote about what I was feeling and moved on. Really? Chloe asked. Really? I stated. I got the hints Lily was dropping about homecoming, and I knew she expected me to follow along like I always do. But I'm done going places with Lily as friends. Since the day I saw her and Dalton holding hands coming out of the movies, I have never gone anywhere alone with Lily. I take that back. I am alone with her in the car for 8 minutes a day on the way to and from school. I knew you and Luke wanted to go solo that night. So, I went with Marcy. Chloe covered her mouth with her hands. I've got to quit being so self-involved, she said. I had honestly never noticed. Christ. Now Lily asking about all of us going together makes sense. I guess she must have suspected that you knew she lied to you. Probably not, I said. I don't think she is any more interested in being alone with me than I am with her. She is my friend mostly because I am friends with Luke and, by extension, you. If you and Luke were to break up, I would make no effort to spend time with Lily and she would make no effort to spend time with me. I think that much should be obvious. Chloe was silent for a few moments. Luke said you won't try to write anything new, she stated. Luke was correct, I said. Look, I've had to set aside a lot of things. Embarrassment, fear of ridicule, resentment, to help you guys out. I think I made it clear that performing with your group wasn't high on my list of things to do. But I did it, to make sure that your three didn't miss out on a great chance. Lily will have to do the same thing if she wants to try this. If you three decide you don't want to put together a demo, that's fine with me. But even if I would sit down and write something else, they would just be words. They wouldn't have any emotion behind them. The emotion is what makes that poem and song good. Chloe smiled and nodded. You always seem so even-keeled, she told me. I never saw anything faze you. I guess you just deal with it differently than most people. I cocked my head. I don't think so, I said. Ask your family about some of the inspiration they use. Mine is just words instead of something more creative. We sat silently for a moment before I spoke again. Let me know what you decide, I said. I'm going to go skiing over Christmas break unless we're into something here. Of course, you already know that Lily eventually relented. But it wasn't easy to convince her. I didn't even try. I expected her to show up at my house to try to convince me to change the words to something else. She didn't. And I didn't pursue her to try to get her to go along with things the way they were. I think she expected me to try. When Luke called me Sunday morning to tell me that we were planning to practice later that afternoon, I wasn't surprised. But I was surprised when Lily announced that she had written words to be sung over Luke's music. The songs were decent. I mean, the words rhymed. That seemed to the most important part of music to most people. Well, that and a decent beat. I thought they would work. Luke and Chloe weren't impressed. Let me call my cousin, she said. She'll tell us the truth. Not surprisingly, Lily's versions had little for me to do. She said she envisioned a softer voice. That didn't bother me, either. I wandered over and sat beside Luke's drum kit. Lily, Luke and Chloe performed her song as Chloe's cousin listened on the telephone. Luke had done a great job with arranging the score. I doubted anyone would listen closely to the words anyway. It's nice, Renee said. The music works really well, but I'm not sure about the lyrics. Lily's face reddened. What's wrong with them? She said hotly. Wrong? Renee answered. Nothing really. They're just schmaltzy. It's like someone took a half-dozen pop songs and cop lines from them. Then they just tossed them together. Chloe, is that the song you were raving about? No, Chloe replied. I mean, the music is the same, but we changed words and singers. Let me hear the other one, Renee suggested. No, Lily fired back. Lily, Chloe whined. I figured I should say something. It's like you told me, Lily, I said. It's a demo song. No one we know will hear it, and even if they do, they won't know anything about why it was written. With fire in her eyes, she nodded. Luke clicked off the intro, and we lit into Style Over Substance. It was the first time we performed it together. It wasn't bad, but I didn't think it was good. A little lighter on the keyboards, Renee said afterward, but otherwise, awesome. Are you guys going to have rights problems with the song? I've never heard it before, but ASCAP can be a killer if you don't have the rights. I have the rights, I said simply. Renee was silent. Have you registered them? She asked. Yeah, I said. I registered them on the web last week. Fantastic. Renee opined. Do you have others? I want to hear them. We haven't done anything with those yet, I said. The lyrics are still up in the air, and we'd be sight reading the music, a problem for me. Call me back after you practice them, Renee said. That is one killer sound you have going there. I could see Lily was irritated. Fine, she said tersely. We'll call you back later in the week. By the following weekend, we had 9 songs ready for a demo. I thought 3 or 4 of them were pretty decent. The rest were just okay. Still, Renee raved when we called her and gave her a preview. Make a 10th track, she suggested. Try the slow one. Fool Something as a duet. Lily, you and Ethan's voices mesh really nicely. I think you could easily share melody on that one with Chloe playing acoustic and Luke setting a light beat. It will give you something different to end with. We, with Lily's tacit acceptance, agreed to give it a shot. 8 days later, we were in the studio cutting a demo album for use with Tiger Tales. Once again, the official version of what happened is pretty well known, even if it took a while for it to get out. The recording studio loved the sound and loved 2 of the 3 songs I had written. We spent another 14 days laying down tracks for 6 songs to be used in the movie. Lily was pissed that the studio wanted to use the songs I'd written. I wasn't really pleased with it myself. I thought they were just to fill space on a demo. I wasn't ready for a public critique of my feelings. Still, the record execs exerted enough pressure that we gave in, the first of many flaws in our value system. The movie, in my opinion, was typical CGI crap aimed at giving kids something to look forward to during the summer movie season. The soundtrack was the last portion of production before the movie hit theaters in 5 months. I had hoped that things would go back to normal in the interim. The collection, as we're called, decided to take a short hiatus. It was a welcomed respite for me. I had SAT and ACT tests to prepare for, and I wanted to keep my GPA above 3.5 so I wouldn't wind up at community college. I barely managed. The studio called us no less than 6 times per day. Chloe's father was acting as our erstwhile manager, but he soon realized he was in over his head. So we retained professional counsel to help us out. That's when we learned that we really and truly screwed the pooch during negotiations. The studio owned the rights to all the songs on the soundtrack, except the 2 I had written. Luke had never licensed his arrangement, so the studio owned it, too. We would receive modest, as in hardly any, royalties for the use of our voices in the movie and on the soundtrack. I had never been asked if I had registered my songs, and I hadn't proffered that information. The studio was a bit upset when they were informed that I owned the rights to the words to Style Over Substance and A View from a Fool. They were even angrier when they were told that I was not interested in selling those rights, nor was I willing to allow them to use them without my permission and compensation. But it was too far along for the studio to drop the arrangements without postponing the movie. However, it was plenty early enough to allow it to drop them from the soundtrack. Luke was stoic about the mistake. He was thrilled to be making music professionally. I think he dreamed of stardom and megacity tours. But he was peeved that someone stole something he worked a full year to produce. I didn't point out the irony given the fact he stole the words that accompanied his music. Chloe and Lily were livid that we had been taken advantage of. But by the end, each of them would be even angrier. At the studio and at me. I guess the beginning of the end for the collection came about 2 months before the movie opened. The studio released one of the songs written by Renee's friend as a single, and it was an immediate hit. I arrived at school shortly before spring break and saw Lily, Chloe, and Luke sitting in his car with smiles spread across their faces. I waved, but none of them even noticed me until I was halfway to the building. Ethan, I heard from behind me. When I turned, Chloe wrapped her arms around my waist and started dancing with me. They played our song on the radio. It's been on 3 or 4 stations today, and it was all over the airwaves this weekend. Did you hear it? Actually, I had been listening to a Christopher Paolini audiobook in the car for the past several days, so I hadn't. Which one? I asked. By this time, the other 2 had arrived. Dreamscape, Luke said with a smile. Man, it was great. You did awesome on that one. It was a relatively easy piece that didn't require much effort. The musical portion was much more difficult to master. Thanks, I said. But you guys are the ones who did all the work. Hell, I'm just a parrot, mimicking what I hear. By that weekend, Dreamscape was all over the radio. It debuted at number 12 in the Hot 100 and the collection was in demand. except no one knew who we were. Our contract with the studio forbade us from revealing anything about us until the movie's premiere. We didn't even own the rights to the name The Collection. The studio did. But once the song hit big, the studio was all over us to make promotional appearances and do live performances. Not a prayer, I said. I've got a lot going on in the next 2 months. I'm going with my folks to visit colleges over spring break. I've got a ton of shit to get ready for this summer, and I still have my junior thesis to write. I can't miss any more school. Luke seemed to understand, but the girls were agog. You're shitting me, right? Lily said. I told you she knew all the curse words. No, I replied. I'm not. I told you from the outset that I had plans for this summer. I'll be leaving for England in late June. I can't change my plans now, and I wouldn't change them if I could. But what if the studio wants us to do stuff at the premiere? Chloe said. They may own the music, I answered. But they don't own me. There are no appearance guarantees in the contract. Remember, I made sure of that before my parents would sign it. So, you won't go with us then? Lily asked. No matter. We'll have to rework some of the songs. We can do it. I'm sure you can, I answered. I'll even grant you limited use to the songs I wrote. Lily's face became a mask of anger. Limited rights? She yelled. What in the hell does that mean? It means I'll agree to let you perform them a set number of times, but I won't allow you to record them, I answered. Can he do that? Lily asked no one in particular. It was Luke who answered. Unlike me, he owns the performance rights to his songs, he replied. So yes, he can do that. And he could sue us if we use them in another fashion other than what he expressly permits. Lily turned and stormed into the school building. What difference does it make? I asked. They aren't on the soundtrack. I was told that one is playing over the ending credits, and one plays somewhere in the middle of the movie. No one will even care. Chloe patted my arm. They'll care, she said. I really think you should plan to postpone your trip to Europe. I think you're going to be a hot commodity come summer. A day later, the studio called and asked us to fly to LA to do another song for the soundtrack. When they pulled my songs and left them with only 8 on the disc, they also wanted to add my songs. I agreed so long as they would compensate the other 3 and give us the rights to the name and Luke's music back. They were still interested in another song, but they decided to pass on adding mine to the soundtrack. After speaking with my parents, I agreed with a couple of caveats. I was unwilling to leave until after school on the Friday spring break started. The entire production had to be done by 9 p.m. Sunday, and they had to fly my parents and me to Texas instead of back home. I had a college I wanted to look at. The studio initially agreed, but called back an hour later and asked if we could come out Thursday for a live performance. I had 2 exams on Friday, and I knew the others had at least 1 each, so I refused to go along. It didn't earn me any points, with the studio or with my bandmates, but I knew that come the following fall, the collection would be just a memory for everyone. It turned out my decision made things easier for all involved. When we arrived at the studio on Saturday morning, the bigwig who met us was appalled. He stumbled for words. Your kids, he finally spat out. The others looked at the ground, but I looked at him like he was a moron. That's why our parents had to sign the contracts. Numbnuts, I said acidly. That's why you were able to steal all the shit you stole without us knowing any better. The man bristled. We can send you back as easy as we brought you out here, he said. Like we give a shit, I answered. The others just stood beside me wide-eyed. My mother, however, cringed when I called the man numbnuts and when I dropped the F-bomb. At least she held off smacking me upside the head. You brought us out here because you needed to help the soundtrack, I stated. You needed help on the soundtrack because you couldn't steal the songs from me, and you refused to pay what they're worth. Do you really think we give a shit if your soundtrack tanks? We're not getting much in royalties anyway. The man's face was red, but he gradually relaxed. I need to make some calls, he said contritely. Just go in and set up however you want. Luke smiled as he walked past me. That was awesome, he opined. Lily and Chloe chipped in with dual yes. By the time we had things set up, another man had joined the one who met us. He, too, was eyeing us speculatively. He came in and greeted us. How old are you guys? He asked. Chloe told him we were all 16. He shook his head. We were of the opinion you were older, he said. It's a blessing that you couldn't come out earlier. We would have had to cancel what we planned. Each of us looked at the other. And those plans were? Luke's mother asked. Moot, the man answered and started to turn away. Chloe's mother stopped him. You know, sir, she said sweetly, to paraphrase your man over there, we can go back home as easily as we came here. We had a venue planned that was adult in nature, he said. A club, not a titty bar or anything. He realized he was talking to an audience that included 2 wholesome-looking 16-year-old girls. Sorry, he said. I honestly thought they were at least 18. I'm sorry. I knew the parents had to sign the contracts, but that is standard if the act is in his teens. We do it just to protect ourselves. If the act is over 18, we ask the parents to sign as witnesses. It made no matter to any of us. This is really going to change our summer plans, he said to no one. I glanced at Luke, who shrugged. Unless you're planning a European tour for summer, you might want to rethink those plans in their entirety, I offered. I'll be in England, France, and Germany from late June until mid-August. You can't do that, the man exclaimed. My father had had enough. Really, sir? He spat. You are not the person who gets to tell my son what he can and can't do. He has planned this trip for 2 years. He saved every penny he has earned in that time to finance it, and if he wants to go, he's going. The man put his hands over his eyes and sighed. This is not going well, he said, and it is not going to go any better anytime soon. I wish I would have known this. It's why we insisted all live performance language be removed from the contract, my father answered. That really should have tipped you off. The man looked up. You're not contracted for live performances after the movie is released? He asked. He seemed relieved. That might make things better. It's just, well, you all look so young. The sound we got was much more adult. The guy in charge of the soundtrack gave us your demo. We had never heard of you, honestly. It's the first demo we'd done, Lily said proudly. We'd only performed in front of an audience once before. I could see the wheels turning in the man's head even if no one else could. I didn't like the small smile that crept across his face. By the time the movie premiered, it was obvious to me why the man had smiled. His studio owned the vast majority of the songs, the name, and the performance rights to anything the collection had performed. The fact that very few people, no one outside of Chloe's family, had heard us perform meant that we were essentially anonymous. The studio refused to allow Luke, Chloe, and Lily to perform anything from the movie, and I was in Europe having the time of my life. By the time I returned in August, Tiger Tales was a summer blockbuster, and the collection was back to being 3 kids with a garage band. I think Luke, Chloe, and Lily blamed me for slowing their rise to superstardom. They seemed to think that if I had capitulated to the studio's demands, we would be splashed across MTV in perpetuity. The studio pulled a fast one on me and released Style Over Substance as a video. They used footage from the movie, so I couldn't stop them. But I could and did stop them when they wanted to release it as a single. I think they believed I would pander to the public outcry and relent. If they thought that, they were wrong. I refused their offer to release it as a solo. They refused my offer to allow Luke, Lily, and Chloe to rework it for themselves. If the studio agreed to allow the collection to come to the forefront. By the time I returned from France in mid-August, my friends were no longer my friends. They weren't speaking to me at all and ignored me whenever I tried to make contact. So I didn't tell them about the studio contacting me. They only knew that I refused to allow them to release the single. I settled in for a lonely senior year of high school. I decided in mid-fall that I would graduate early. I had been accepted at Boston College, and the school agreed to allow me to start taking classes in January. I tried to contact my former friends and bandmates one last time before I left, but none of them called me back. But Luke trudged over in January as I was packing the U-Haul to head east. We exchanged generalities for a few minutes before anything serious came up. I'm sorry about the way things worked out, I told him, but it's not like it seemed. I didn't throw you guys under the bus. If anything, it was the opposite. I wouldn't let the studio have their way because of how they treated you guys. He was about to answer when Chloe's car pulled up and she and Lily piled out. They saw Luke talking to me, and I could see they weren't happy. See you around, I said and handed him a parting gift. Before Luke could say anything, I went back into my house. From my front window, I could see the girls giving Luke a ration of shit for talking to me. I could see Luke pointing and gesturing toward the house in a pleading manner. But soon the 3 of them stalked back into the car and disappeared. Luke had not returned by the time I pulled out of my driveway for the last time. I guess it was my junior year at Boston College when I turned on the radio and heard 3 familiar voices emanate forth. The announcer said it was a new group called Trio, but I recognized them almost instantly: Luke, Chloe, and Lily. I couldn't help but smile. It helped that I recognized the song as one of several I had pinned in Europe. They were in a notebook I handed to Luke that last day in my driveway. I was happy that Trio had finally hit the big time, but I was sorry that it had taken 4 years longer than it should have. Because my voice was out of the mix, unless you knew them, no connection to the collection could be made. They had made it on their own merits, and I was extremely proud of them. Not that I made any attempt to let them know that. My parents moved not long after I left. I think they only planned to stay in town until I graduated high school anyway. With them gone, there was no reason for me to return to my hometown, so I never had. My parents had moved to upstate New York and seemed to loving the life of rural farmers. I'll admit I enjoyed the solitude of spending time outdoors in the summers the first spent with them. It gave me time to clear my head and to work on my writing. I was working on what would become a novel. Not well received or well purchased, but at least it was published. But I also was writing poetry. Of course, I was certain to make sure the words could be set to music if someone so desired. Outside of the shower, I probably hadn't sung a dozen times since I left my home state. I would participate in the family Christmas caroling, of course, but I had no desire to be in public again. I did read a couple of my poems in a coffeehouse in Boston. They received high praise from the patrons, but they did not achieve my primary purpose, to get horizontal with a member of the opposite sex for an extended period of time, to steal a line from one of life's greatest storytellers, Harry Chapin. My dating life in college was best termed as migratory. I would date a girl for a month or two before one or the other of us would decide it was time to move on. I'm not some hopeless romantic who believed the one great love of my life was Lily, but many of the girls I would date seemed to pale in comparison to the girl I remembered. I am careful to use the term girl. The young woman Lily manifested into wasn't part of my fond memories. By the time I left, there was far more about her that I didn't like than I did like. She had become manipulative and deceitful in her middle teen years. By her later teens, she was vengeful, arrogant, and paranoid. But there were few who could compare to the young girl I met when I was a young boy. A year after I first heard Trio on the radio, they were making their way up the charts with regularity. Their videos were in constant rotation during that 45-minute block of time that the music video stations actually set aside to play music videos those days. There were times I would see them and think wistfully of what might have been. Maturity had come late to me. I was probably 20 before I could admit that I wasn't always right, and even older before I could take a look at both sides of an issue. I guess maturity came to Luke about the same time as it had to me, because one Saturday night he showed up outside of my apartment in Chelsea. He didn't say anything when I opened the door for him. He just hugged me tightly. "Before you left," he began, "you told me things weren't as they appeared." I nodded. "I tried my best to protect you guys," I offered. "I know you did," he said sadly. "It's only been very recently that we finally have a firm enough grasp on the industry to understand that. I'm sorry I didn't take the time to find out what happened." There was little I could say. "You're doing well now, though," I said with a smile. "I'm happy for you." He looked around my somewhat Spartan apartment. "Don't worry," I said. "I live simply because I want to, not because I have to. I have better uses for my money than furniture. Or a kitchen table," he added with a laugh. "Do you even have glasses and stuff?" "Yes," I said. "McDonald's always has giveaways." He shook his head. "We wanted to let you know that we miss you," he said. "When I saw you packing up your U-Haul, I couldn't believe it. I guess I knew you well enough to know that you wouldn't have done something just to spite us." I caught hell that day. I told him. "I'm glad you could use a couple of songs that I put together for you." Luke smiled widely. "You'll probably be happier now that I have an address to send the royalty checks to," he said. "I registered them in your name. You had already set up a profile with ASCAP, so I just tagged them in with the ones you'd already done." I chuckled. "I didn't register them for that very reason," I admitted. "It's why there were releases for your use with all of them. I didn't want you to feel like you were beholden to me. I wrote them while I was in Europe." "I guess that," he replied. "Well, I guess that later. At the time, Lily and Chloe thought you were trying to bribe your way back in. When you didn't contact us, well, ever again, they figured out they were wrong. You know," I began. "Even if we would have made it big, it wouldn't have mattered. I wrote those songs for you three to sing. I was never going to be part of the equation after I came back. I had different plans." He smiled gamely. "I figured that out too," he said. "Not about the dreams part. I always knew your dreams didn't include being a musician. But I figured out that you were giving us something to use as we tried. You were trying to support our dreams, even though we wanted you to put yours aside for ours. I'm ashamed at some of the things we said and did." "It's okay," I told him. "It was years ago and we were kids. Kids do things like that. We played in Providence last night," he mentioned. "I heard," I said. "It was all over the radio. You know, I think your group is stronger without me in it." Luke shook his head. "We're different, but not better," he said. "You know, we've each tried writing our own songs. They just don't come out as good as yours do. That's why we used so many of yours on our first album." "How many did you use?" I asked. Luke shook his head. 3 people you know have an album released, and you don't even buy it?" he asked. "Is that any way to be?" I laughed. 7 on the first album," he told me without pause. 8 on the second album. It's being released in the spring. I have some others if you want to take them with you." I told him. "You do?" he asked. "Honestly?" I still write from time to time, I said. I pulled down 2 notebooks from among the clutter. They're in chronological order. The older ones are in the green book from oldest to newest. The newer ones are in the blue book. Luke opened the binders. There must be 100 songs in here, he said in awe. Maybe, I replied. I've never counted them. Most of them are probably crap. Some of the decent ones might not translate well to music. Are they registered? He asked. I shook my head. I'll have our agent handle that, he told me. Here is my cell number. Keep in touch, if for no other reason than to keep your address current for the royalties. I'm not worried about those, I said. He laughed uproariously. Our financial guy told us we had to find you in the next few months, he said. You have almost $80,000 in royalty checks that you've never claimed on your taxes. You need to worry about those. Hell, I've never made enough money to file taxes, I said truthfully. Outside of claiming the money we made when we were 16, I do mostly work-study jobs. You like college? He asked, looking around the room. I do, I said. I knew I would. What are you studying? He wondered. English Lit, I told him, with a specialization in education. I'm student teaching this fall. You caught me working on my lesson plans. There is going to be an opening at a private school near Pembroke next year. If this goes well, I should have a good shot at landing it. A new generation of Ethans, Luke said with glee. That is just what America needs. I changed the subject. So, I heard you're touring with Amy Walston, I said with a raised eyebrow. I bet that is fun. Luke grimaced. She's a bitch, he said. She comes across on TV as this sweet girl, but in reality she thinks she is the cat's meow. Lily hates her. I spoke before I thought. Too much alike, I offered. Luke looked at me. Probably the girl you remember, he said softly. Not so much anymore. The girl I remember most is not the one in the band, I said. I didn't say anything else. She grew up some too, he offered. I can tell you have, and I know Chloe and I have. You two still dating? I asked. No, he answered. Not for years now. We evolved. He put air quotes around the last word. Is that a good thing? I wondered. Yes and no, he told me. It was a mutual decision. We spent too much time together when we were younger. There were no surprises left. We split up, hell, probably a month after you moved. We broke up the band for a while and restarted it the next fall. We talked a bit during the summer, as friends. And we all decided to put off college for a year to see if we could make a go of it. It seems as if you could, I replied. It was tough for a while, he said. We couldn't use anything we'd done before. We couldn't even mention to studios that we had performed on the soundtrack. They buried us good. I know, I said sadly. I really tried to stop them. I hope you know that. They wanted to release one of the songs I owned as a single. I told them they could if they would agree to promote you 3. The idea died quickly. Luke nodded. We were told it was because we were so young looking, he answered. We had this adult sound and, well, we had some pretty adult songs. The two just didn't correlate. So they kept the songs and buried us. Anyway, we played clubs and bars for a while, but nothing was happening. Finally, right after Christmas, I told Chloe and Lily that I was planning to go to college in the fall. They had been reluctant to use any of the material that you gave us. I had written arrangements for 4 or 5 songs, but they refused to perform them. I told them that if they were so intent on being a small-time group, they could do it without me. I fully planned to start a new group in college. I knew the songs you gave us were good. I looked at the table and Luke kept speaking. Finally, they agreed to take a look at them, he continued. I'm not sure of what they were expecting, but it wasn't what they got. After a couple of minutes, they agreed to use the songs. After that, things took off. We cut another demo about 6 or 7 months later, and a new label picked us up immediately. We used a lot of the demo songs on the first disc, and it came out a couple of years ago. It took almost 8 months for anyone to notice, but once they did, well, here we are. I glanced at the clock, and Luke seemed to think it was hint. Maybe it was. We're trying to secure the rights to our original songs, he said. I'll let you know if we get them. Let me know, I said. I'll sign over rights to ones I did, if you want to perform them. I denied everyone for the first couple of years, and no one has asked since. It was mostly high schoolers who wanted to do Tiger Tales as a play. I told them if they managed to secure the rights to the music, I'd release the rights to the words. I almost never heard from any of them again, and the ones that did get back to me asked if I knew a way to convince the studio to let them perform the songs from the soundtrack. They were real scumsuckers, he said. The recording label is about to go belly up. As soon as it does, we should be able to get the rights to my music. I wish I would have thought about that at the time, I told him. I was more concerned about covering me, and I didn't even think that you might not be aware of it. I mean, Chloe's dad really should have been more help to you. Maybe, he said. but he was in over his head. At least he recognized it before things got too far out of hand. Hell, the studio was trying to get us to sign a multi-disc contract. Lily and Chloe wanted to, but I never would have done that. I cut in. I knew that, he told me. I told them we would have to approach you diplomatically when you returned. By the time you came back from Europe, the deal was off and, well, diplomacy was forgotten. It's good to see you, I told him in parting. Tell everyone else I said hi. It was a little more than a year later before I would catch up with Luke and crew again. We had kept in touch with phone calls and emails, but their life was hectic and mine was just beginning to feel real. I didn't catch on at the private school near Pembroke, but I did land at Lake Howard Preparatory just minutes outside Boston. I finally had enough money, counting the royalties from Trio, to move into a nicer place. It was during my orientation session at Lake Howard when I met Sophie. We were too much alike to be more than friends, but we were so much alike that it seemed we were destined to be best friends and hopefully more. As it was, we started a casual friendship made every part of my life better. I was a year younger than she, and Sophie went out of her way to make sure I knew the ropes. "Gah, last year was hell for me," she said. "All these old scumsuckers just looked down their noses at me. The administrator made me take out my nose piercing. What the hell is that about?" I could supply no answers, but I did mention that some of our students' parents probably would be a bit put off by seeing a pierced nose. "Stuffy old scumsuckers," she said. "The men are probably flirting with their secretaries, and the women probably have all sorts of tattoos. Heck, half the women here are probably just waiting until they can get a fake ID to get a tattoo and piercings." I laughed and shook my head. I suspected I might have difficulty relating to the students anyway. Now I had to hope that I didn't picture their piercings and tattoos in my dreams. "How about the boys?" I asked with a smile. "What's their major malfunction?" "Huh," Sophie said gleefully. "Half of them can't decide if they want to rebel by making unconventional choices to upset their parents, but they're definitely focused on stirring the pot. The girls are debating how to push boundaries in their own way. You've got to remember, Ethan, these kids think they're completely misunderstood. Have you considered public school?" I wondered aloud. "Unlike the truly altruistic, I'm in teaching for the money," she said. "I can put up with the L. Ron Huffington III's for $42,000 a year and summers off." She turned serious for a moment. "Honestly, the kids aren't that bad," she said. "Sure, some of them are pains in the butt, but most of them really are just misunderstood. They've been raised by nannies and step-parents, and they've never had a moment's worth of discipline in their lives. Don't tell anyone, but the reason I came here is because I was just like them." "That explains the nose ring," I said with a smile. "Want to show me your tramp stamp?" She stuck her tongue out at me. "My tat is a little lower," she said. "Maybe you'll see my kitty one day." "I meant my tattoo, you pervert," she said when I glanced at her lap. "It's on my hip." Sophie and I hit it off immediately. I liked her, I'll confess to that. She brought out my cynical side that I thought I'd hidden, and she appreciated my less than fully developed sense of humor. Still, we went almost everywhere together, but always as friends. But, as with Lily initially, being friends with Sophie was good enough most of the time. Unfortunately, Sophie was a huge fan of Trio. I had never mentioned that I knew Luke, Lily, or Chloe. I had never mentioned that I once performed with them. Those were portions of my life that I kept only for me. Sophie had boundaries as well. She didn't talk about her parents or growing up at all. It was as if both of our lives started when we hit 18. I wasn't offended by it, and she didn't seem to be either. We were driving to a Red Sox game one Friday afternoon when she suddenly cranked the radio. "I love this song," she shouted and started singing along with Lily. I didn't recognize the lyrics and I was trying to negotiate traffic, so I paid little attention, but it was still one of Trio's finer efforts. My mind went to the past, and for a few moments I was lost in my reverie. "Are you listening to me?" Sophie said as she slapped my arm. "Of course not," I replied. "I have learned that I gain nothing from paying attention to you the first time you tell me something. Invariably, you'll repeat it a dozen times in the next couple of days." She stuck her tongue out at me. She did that a lot. I wondered if there was a hidden meaning. "Listen to me," she shouted, and I was pulled back from wondering about Sophie's tongue and if it had ever been pierced. "I swear to God, I'm going to sweat you one," she threatened. Now I was listening. With Sophie, an opportunity to playfully pinch, punch, slap, or tickle me was rarely missed. "What?" I asked. She sat there looking at me. "I forgot," she said. "Damn you. What was it?" She sat for another minute. "Oh yeah," she exclaimed. "Wasn't that a great song?" "I wasn't listening," I replied. "Sorry. I know they're one of your favorites. They're in town for 2 days next month," she said. "If I can score tickets, I'm going." "I can probably get you tickets," I said. She rolled her eyes. They sold out in like 20 minutes, douche, she replied. I'm gonna try to scalp them or get them off Craigslist. Do you at least want me to try? I asked. I'll bet you that if you'll drive, I can have tickets to the show for you before we find a place to park. What's the bet? She asked. 20? I offered. No way, she shot back. 20 minutes of tickling. You'll regret it, I said. Only if you pee on me while I'm tickling you, she answered. Sophie, I'm almost positive I can get the tickets in just a couple of minutes, I said. And you hate to be tickled. You can really get tickets to a sold-out show? She asked. I can most likely get tickets to this sold-out show, I replied. She was watching me closely. Pull off the next exit, she said. I'll drive. You can try to make my day. I pulled my cell phone and called Luke. The only snarl that I could see was that I would have to leave a voicemail. But he picked up on the first ring. Hey man, he said. I was going to call you tonight. Really? I said. I'm glad I caught you then. I'm on the way to a Red Sox game. They're playing the Tribe tonight. Don't I know it? He said wistfully. Man, I would love to see a game in Fenway. Well, I would love to see a game in Fenway in a normal way. You know what I mean. Not really, but I'll take your word for it, I answered with a smile. Remember, I took the normal life. So, how are things in Beantown? He asked. You still working at Hoity-Toity Prep? No one calls it Beantown anymore, I answered. It's passé, and I am still at Lake Howard. You gonna show us around next month? Of course, I answered. I mean, if you want me to. That's sort of why I called. Is it too late to get tickets off you? You offered the last time I talked to you. I'll leave them at Will Call, he said. Or if you want to hang out all day, you can just go in with us. But I should warn you, I'm not into the whole groupie thing, so don't try any kissy face. How many you want? Well, actually, they're for a friend of mine, I said. Let me ask. Sophie was staring at me in wonder. Two, she said. I told Luke, and he asked if leaving them in my name was okay. Better leave them under Sophie Macon, I said. I'm not sure who she is going to take. Luke laughed. You're coming too, right? He asked. Even if your girlfriend goes without you. I thought for a minute. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. What's your schedule that week? They added a second show on Sunday, he said with resignation. The first one sold out quickly and Sunday was an open day before a 5-day break. It sold out pretty quickly too, but I told them no other shows that week. You mind if I hang with you for a day or two afterward? Sounds great, I said. Listen, we're at the park, so I'll call you later. When's good? He told me and I promised I'd catch up with him the next afternoon. 2 tickets will be waiting at Will Call under your name. I told Sophie. You're kidding me, right? She asked. I mean, you just picked up the phone and in 4 minutes had me tickets. Why didn't you put them under your name? I started to answer, but my phone rang. I saw it was Luke calling back. I hoped he hadn't overreached on the tickets. Hey man, he said. Lily and Chloe just chewed my butt, again. Oh, I said dejectedly. Sophie was watching carefully. No, Ethan, he said quickly. I told them you called and that you're coming. They made me call you back to see if your friend wanted to watch from backstage. I should have thought of that. I'll ask, I said. Sophie's eyes lit up like a candle. Holy shit on Easter, she screamed. I would go down on 4 security guards to watch from backstage, including females if I had to. Is she your girlfriend? Luke asked into the phone. No, I said, but I'll take comment to mean that she would truly enjoy watching the show from backstage. Sophie slapped my arm hard. If you were straight, you would be getting so lucky tonight, she said. I was trying to listen to Luke, but he overheard her comment and stopped talking abruptly. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at Sophie. Please tell me you're joking, I said. She laughed. About which part? She said with a giggle. About the part if you were straight, I said irritably. I'm straight. Sophie laughed heartily. I know you're not, she said loudly, but you're missing a hell of a chance. I picked the phone back to my ear in time to hear Chloe say, I like that girl. Well, that makes one of us, I said. I was still a bit miffed, but I didn't know why. Hey, Ethan, Chloe chimed. We made Luke put you on speaker. You're really coming next month? If I'm not in jail for manslaughter, I replied, casting a harsh look at Sophie who was staring out the window. Both shows, right? Chloe asked. I told her I wasn't sure if I could make both shows, but I would try. Can we spend a couple of days with you, too? She asked. Luke said he was going to hang out. I think it would be fun. If you want to, I answered. But don't feel obligated. Look, I gotta run. Call me tomorrow, Luke said and I turned toward Sophie. You look pissed. She said, are you a homophobe? No, I said. At least I don't think so. But I didn't find it humorous. Sophie looked abashed for a moment. Well, I did, she said. I guess 50% on a joke isn't bad. Okay, but don't be surprised if I suddenly find it hilarious to comment about how fat your butt looks in those shorts, I said. I laughed off Sophie's comment, but it bothered me. So it was a relief when I left for a few days to visit Walden Pond in the sanctuary of Henry David Thoreau. Then I spent a week in New York City searching fruitlessly for a literary agent to rep my now-finished novel. And I spent 10 days at my folks' house enjoying solitude. I felt relaxed and content as I drove back into Boston. My oldest friends were on their way to visit in 4 days, and I was looking forward to seeing them. I enjoyed my time away from the city. I did not enjoy my return. I had put Sophie from my mind for the most part. I had reconciled myself that I would have to accept my relationship with her the way I had with Lily. Still, like with Lily, I knew things probably could never go back to the way they were. I still thought of her as a friend, and I know what she said was in jest, but a part of me wondered if she actually thought that about me. Not that there is anything wrong with it, as Seinfeld once said. Still, I wondered if she would have thought differently of me, perhaps in the way I thought about her, if she didn't view me as effeminate. I certainly didn't look at myself in that manner. I guess I wasn't a picture of male virility, but drank beer and I owned power tools. I mean, hell, what else can you look for? I didn't have to wait long to find out. There were several messages on my phone when I returned. I got spotty service in Walden, so I turned off my cell phone. I found I liked the freedom, so I left it off and basically forgot about it. The longer I listened to the messages, the more desperate Sophie sounded. I was certain that I had mentioned in passing that I was going to visit my parents, but even if I hadn't, it wasn't like Sophie was my caretaker. The longer I listened, the angrier I got. I resolved to sleep on it and contact her the next day. I had been asleep only for an hour or so when the damned phone rang again. I suspected who it was, but I also remembered that I was supposed to call my mom and let her know I got an okay. I was 26 years old, but she worried about me. Grudgingly, I answered. It only proved that I should trust my instincts. Where have you been? Sophie demanded. I was worried to death. I took a deep breath and wiped sleep from my eyes. Walden Pond, New York City, and Mom and Dad's, I answered. I'm a big boy. You don't need to worry about me. My answer was probably harsher than I meant, and definitely harsher than Sophie deserved. If she had disappeared for 3 weeks, I probably would have been worried too. What's up? I asked in a gentler tone. She was silent. Nothing, she answered. Are you going to be home for a while? We need to talk. Those dreaded words. I'm home, but I was sleeping, I answered. I drove 9 hours today. Why don't you stop later in the week? It's important, she said. Are you sure I can't come over? Come on over, I answered. But if I fall asleep in the middle of whatever you're worried about, don't blame me. I could tell Sophie was tense from our phone conversation. It didn't prepare me for what I saw when I opened the door. She looked like she hadn't slept in days and her clothes were wrinkled. She definitely wasn't the put-together education professional I had come to know. You all right? I asked automatically. You look like you're coming off a 3-day bender. Clothes, she answered. Well, not a bender, but I've had a rough couple of weeks. I was actually worried about her. Whatever was bothering her was definitely more important than what was eating at me. How can I help? I asked. Just listen to me, she said. Please. The last was said in a pleading tone of voice I had never heard from Sophie. Of course, I answered. Sit down. Do you want a glass of water? I think I might have a beer or two in the fridge. I don't have much else, I'm afraid. A beer would be nice, she replied. I could almost see the tension lessen around her eyes. When I sat back down in a chair opposite her, the tension was back. I'm sorry for what I said, she told me. It was a joke. I know you played it off, but I also know it bothered you. You were different as soon as I said it. Well, that's part of it, I admitted. But it's not all of it. Some friends I haven't seen in a while are visiting this week. I was a little nervous about seeing them, but what you said was troubling too. I know it was, she said with a sigh, and I'm stupid for saying it. You know I don't think of you that way. I mean as well, you know. I'm straight, I replied testily. I know you're not, she answered. That is what I was saying. Look, Ethan, I can see the way you look at me. I know what you're feeling, but your timing is terrible. About 3 weeks before I met you, I broke up with my boyfriend, a guy I had been dating since my sophomore year of college, she continued. It was a bad breakup. I don't want to go into details, but it was hard for me. Sophie looked at the table. I didn't know what to say, so I sat silently and waited for her to continue. I liked you from the moment I met you, she said. If you had shown up 6 months later, or I had broken up with Ryan 6 months earlier, I have no doubt in my mind that I would have fallen totally and hopelessly in love with you. But I wasn't emotionally ready for anything like that when I met you. And by the time I was ready, I had a relationship with you that went so much deeper than I ever had with Ryan. I mean, you're my best friend, the best friend I've ever had, and I don't know. You're so much more to me than a boyfriend could be. You're like a brother and I don't even have the words to tell you how much you mean to me. I know that what I'm saying doesn't make sense to you. It doesn't make sense to me either. But I hope you understand why I won't risk what we have for what might be. I looked at my beer for a long time. It seemed to have lost its flavor. I wasn't sure how to respond to Sophie, so I decided on the truth. Since the ballgame, I have wondered if maybe you had been looking at me in the wrong light, I answered. I wondered if you really thought I liked guys and that's why, I don't know, we hung out together so much. And I do understand sort of what you're saying, but I hope that you'll understand where I'm coming from. I wasn't in emotional turmoil when I met you. I met a vibrant, exciting woman and yes, I was attracted to you instantly. The more time we spent together, the more the attraction grew until it hit its apex a couple of weeks ago. I am in love with you, Sophie. I know you don't want me to be, but I am. Hell, if you look at it, we've been dating one another for almost a year. I mean, I don't think either of us goes anywhere without asking the other if they want to go. We spend as much time together as apart. Your revelation doesn't surprise me, I continued, but it doesn't change the way things are from my perspective. I can't set aside my feelings. I have tried, in this instance and in the past. It just doesn't work that way. So, like it or not, now that things are out on the table, things are different. Maybe we can forge a different friendship in the future. But knowing how you feel, that we are to be friends only, makes me a little hesitant to maintain the closeness of our friendship. I thought we were working towards something bigger. Now I know what we had was all there was. And I confess that I'm more than a little disappointed. Sophie was stone-faced. So what we had wasn't enough, she said. You hoped for more than what we had. The emphasis on the word had was impossible to miss. It wasn't, I said. At the time, it was enough. But now that I know there is nothing more, it isn't. You know how I feel about you, right? I thought I did, she replied harshly. Now I'm not so sure. Really? I asked in a gentle tone. What's changed? Did you expect me to say, shucks, Sophie, it's okay. I'll just bite my tongue when you decide you want to date someone else. I'll just sit here and put my life on hold while I wait for you? Is that what you expected? No, she said quickly. I mean, I don't know. I didn't look at it that way. I've known, I guess, for a while, that you didn't look at me like I look at you, I said. It's not a new situation for me, and you would think I would recognize it earlier. But I do feel that way about you, she insisted. I do love you, Ethan, but not in the way you want. You love me like your favorite girlfriend, I said tersely. I get it. We're buddies, pals. Like I said, I'm used to it. But I'm not going to be willing to invest as much time as I did into grooming our relationship for something that isn't going to develop into more than friendship. I don't mean that harshly. I only mean that places that you and I used to go are places that I will likely be taking a girlfriend in the future, if I can buy one or rent one or whatever. I guess a part of me hoped that is what you would turn out to be. So we can't even be friends? She said. This is stupid. We can be friends, I told her. But I don't think we can ever be as close as we used to be. I know I am repeating myself, but I've been through unrequited love before. No matter how hard I would try, there was always a distance that I wasn't willing to bridge. The past few weeks are a prime example. I think a part of me understood that you would be upset when you didn't hear from me. And it certainly wouldn't have killed me to call you and see how things were with you. But I couldn't do it. Hell, I didn't want to do it. Damn it, Sophie said. Damn it to hell. I tried to smile. Like you said, I told her. My timing is terrible. Are we still on for this weekend? Sophie looked at me. The concert, I said. Backstage passes, the works. Yeah, she said sadly. I guess so. She looked up. Is that one of the places you would want to take a girlfriend? She asked. I considered the question. No, I said. If you were to tell me now that you wanted to go, I would get your passes if I could. I mean, I made sure the passes are in your name. So you don't need to go with me at all. I mean, I'm sure I'll see you backstage, but you know what I mean. She smiled a sad smile. I guess I do, she told me. I am sorry. I mean, about everything. I know I should think of you like you think of me. I know that we get along so well that things probably would be great. You don't have to try to convince yourself, I said. You're not attracted to me. You're not the first person to tell me I'm not prime boyfriend material. Sophie's face got a harsh look. You're wrong, she said sadly. When we first met, my first thought was sex buddy. Then we got to know each other. That's what's so difficult, Ethan. A part of me is very attracted to you. And in my heart, I know that you are the perfect guy for me. But my head tells me that I couldn't bear to risk losing you if things didn't work out. And things like that don't work out for me. Suddenly Sophie was crying. I had never suspected she was capable of tears. Now I've lost you because I was too scared to let myself open up to you, she said. I really hope we can stay close friends, Ethan. I've never met someone I enjoy being with as much I do with you. I hope so too, I replied. But in my heart, I knew we couldn't. Sophie and I talked once or twice during the remainder of the week. But it wasn't the laughing, intimate conversations we had shared in the past. We chatted about mundane things and trivialities. Finally, it was Friday and Luke called me early in the morning. We'll get to the arena about noon, he said. We'll do a sound check and then head out for supper. You want to meet us and go to the show with us? I thought about it for a few moments. How long have you been on tour? I asked. I'm sure Luke thought it was a random question. About 3 months, he answered. Why? I was just wondering when the last time you three had a home-cooked meal, I said. How about I meet you folks at the arena and you come back here and I'll cook for you? No shit? Luke said. Any chance you have your mom's mashed potato recipe? I laughed out loud. I have it, I said. I can throw some steaks on the grill, make some mashed potatoes, and we'll have corn on the cob. Does that sound like a plan? I heard Luke talking to the others. Suddenly, Chloe's voice was on the phone. If you make your mom's mashed potatoes, I'll love you forever, she said. Hey, you promised to love me forever once before. I replied, what happened to that? Is forever over? Okay, you caught me, she said. I lied before. I really only loved you for 10 or 15 minutes that time. But this time, I promise forever. Or until dessert, I added. Hey, yeah, don't forget dessert, Chloe said. I'll bring dessert. Vanilla ice cream. That would just be perfect. I heard Luke and Chloe struggling for the phone. Chloe won. Is your girlfriend coming to dinner? She asked in a sing-song voice. No, I answered. I told you she wasn't my girlfriend. She confirmed that a few days ago. Chloe was silent and I heard Luke pry the phone from her hands. Sorry, man, he said. Nothing to be sorry about, I replied. We both know it's happened before. There is a high probability it will happen again. Okay, Luke said. I'm not sure what you and Chloe were talking about. I'm sorry, she grabbed the phone. Oh, I answered. So, what time is good for you? And will it be the 3 of you, or just 2? All 3, he said. I mean, if that's okay. It's fine, I said. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all. Can you meet us at the Fleet Center at 2:30? He asked. Make sure you bring an ID, and I'll tell them to let you in. I was getting ready to leave the house to pick up groceries when Sophie called. Are we driving together, or separately? She asked. What would you prefer? I said. Together, she replied. I mean, it'll be easier. Do you want to go to dinner first? I was stuck. I wasn't sure if Luke, Lily, and Chloe were planning to ride back with me. I assumed since I was picking them up, they would need a ride back. I'm having some friends over for dinner beforehand, I said. We're all going into the city together. They need to be there sort of early, so you can eat with us here if you want. There was a definite sadness in Sophie's voice when she answered. I think I'll just drive in alone, she said. If that's what you want to do, I replied. I'll meet you at the will call window about 7. Call my cell if you go in ahead of me, so I don't wait for you. Fine, she answered tersely. I'll see you at 7. It was a little before noon when Luke called back. Man, this place is an acoustical nightmare, he said. We're not going to be done in time to come out for dinner. Is that a huge problem? I hadn't started to cook, so it was no problem at all. Nah, I said. I've got the steaks and marinade, but that's all. I'll drop them in a baggie and we can have them tomorrow if you're free. Otherwise, I'll eat them this week. Tomorrow is a definite as long as it doesn't put you out, he said. This place is really like a cavern. We are getting weird echoes all over the place. Hey, it's not called the Enema Center for nothing, I joked. Your music is probably just bouncing off the bowels. Oh, yuck, he said. Is that what it's named for? I thought it was a bank or something. It probably is, I replied. It's probably just a coincidence that there is an enema brand with the same name. I called Sophie back to see if she wanted to change plans. She alternated between sad and mad. So, I'm second choice now? She asked irritably when I told her I was free because my friends were stuck in the city. I invited you out the first time, I insisted. You weren't second choice. Hell, I had only finished making dinner plans 10 minutes before I talked to you. You're the one who said you wanted to go in by yourself. Am I supposed to beg you now? What the hell? You were right, she said. Things are different. Okay, we'll drive in together and have dinner. Then we'll go to the concert and have a great time. But tomorrow, we've got to talk. Okay, I can't do this, Ethan. My friends will be here most of the week, I said. At least one of them, and maybe all of them will be at my place for 3 or 4 days. They might be here starting tonight. Hell, I don't know. We haven't gotten that far. It's sort of seat of the pants, as you might have noticed. It's been a long time since I've seen a couple of them, so it might be awkward. And it might be hard to find time to have a lengthy conversation in private. Sophie returned to angry. This last month has been awful, she said. I want you to know that. I never meant to hurt you, Ethan. There's no reason for you to keep pushing me away. I know it wasn't personal, Sophie, I told her. And I know you can't help what you don't feel any more than I can help what I do. We'll find some time to talk this weekend. Deal? Deal, she answered. But for tonight, can we just set things aside and have fun? Like we used to? We managed to do exactly that right up to the time we walked up to the will call window of the Fleet Center. Sophie went forward to claim the envelope with her name on it. The woman at the window handed it to her and pointed to me. Are you Ethan Dumont? She asked. I nodded. Ms. Macon, a security guard will escort you in, she said politely. Mr. Dumont, will you wait here for a moment? I looked at Sophie, who nodded her assent. I'll see you inside, she said excitedly. Okay, I answered. I stood there for a couple of minutes before another security guard led me in the same door Sophie had entered. Lily was standing there waiting for me. Lily seemed unsure of herself. I had spoken at times to Chloe and Luke. Luke and I routinely sent emails back and forth almost weekly for 2 years. But I hadn't spoken or written to Lily. I greeted her with as warm a smile as I own. She seemed, I want to say, relieved. It's good to see you, Lily, I stated. You're looking well and you're sounding great. She returned my smile. So are you, Ethan, she said as she grabbed my hand. Things seem to be going well for you. We stood there looking at one another for what seemed like an eternity. I'm sorry you weren't here earlier, she said. I had hoped to talk to you for a while, but that really isn't possible now. We got so caught up things all those years ago that we never talked about what I did. I knew she wasn't talking about the recording deal. There is no need, I said. Not then and not now. We were kids. We were 15 years old. Are you planning to stay in Boston this week with the rest of them? Lily fidgeted. I guess that depends on you, she said. Do you hate me? No, Lily, I said firmly. I never hated you. She clutched my hand tighter. I'm sure you've heard the song I wrote, she said finally. I wrote it about you. She released my hand and headed into an area marked private before I could explain I had no idea what she was talking about. I turned the next corner and was face to face with Sophie. She looked jumpy and nervous, a far cry from the elated, excited woman who had entered in the door not 10 minutes previous. Hey, I said. She jumped at the sound of my voice even though I was standing in front of her. What's going on? I wondered. Nothing, she said quickly. I put my arm around her shoulder protectively. Did something happen? I asked. I don't know. You seem frightened. I was surprised when she wrapped her arms around me tightly. I don't know, Ethan, she told me. Why didn't you tell me you knew the band? Why is that a secret? I guess it's not a secret, I said. But, well, I haven't been friends with them in years. We grew up together and went to high school together. I went off to college and they went off to fame. They're still your friends, Sophie said quickly. At least Lily is. I'll tell you about it later. She said the opening act canceled and they're starting early. I glanced down at Sophie, who still had her head on my shoulder. You spoke to Lily too? I asked. What about? She smiled meekly. You, she said. Me, her, us. I don't know. I didn't talk much. I just listened mostly. Will wonders never cease? I said with an exaggerated sigh. Sophie Macon listened. Sophie pulled her head back and looked up at me. I guess I should have started earlier, she said. Come on, let's get down toward the stage. I was told it was this way. I stood in the wings and watched Luke, Chloe, and Lily take their places on the opposite side of the stage. Lily waved at us, but Luke and Chloe seemed to studiously ignore us. I wondered if it was a pre-game ritual like the former NHL goalie who used to puke before each game. I was about to comment when the lights went on and Trio took the stage. The Fleet Center had been sold out, but since it was more than an hour before the main event was scheduled to start, the arena was 1/4 empty. Still, the group lit into a song that I hadn't heard before. It was good, though. Sophie still had hold of my arm, but she had released me from her grasp. She was smiling now at least. Must be new stuff, I opined. Not really, Sophie told me. It's off their first album. It was never a single. She looked at me funnily. You didn't buy one of their CDs? She asked. I shrugged. How about the second album? I shrugged again. You didn't download it, shoplift it, or borrow a friend's copy? Shrugs, like celebrity deaths, must come in threes. Who was I to break the string? Sophie shook her head. Christ, you're hopeless, she said. Well, at least some of the concert will be new to you. And I won't have to listen to you singing along. A laugh lifted from Sophie's throat. What? I asked. I was just imagining you singing one of their songs, she said. I mean, you're as uptight as any person I've ever met. I bet it would be hilarious. Possibly, I replied. Although I have been told my singing voice is quite pleasant. And I've been told my butt looks fat in my favorite shorts, she said. Don't believe everything you hear. I elbowed her gently. I was aiming for the ribs, but instead I felt something soft beneath my arm. Sorry, I mumbled. You must have shrunk in the last month or so. She grimaced, rubbed the spot, and swatted my arm. With the interaction with Sophie, I almost missed what was happening on stage. The trio had finished their first number, and Luke had come forward to stand beside Lily's piano. Chloe had put down her guitar and walked over to stand beside him. We were so excited to be in Boston that we decided to start early, he said into the microphone. Seriously, we had some miscommunication with the opening act. Rather than try to book another sound unheard, we decided to do some of the songs that didn't make it into our concert menu. But we are excited to be in Boston, Chloe said. The fans here have always been great to us. We had to add another show tomorrow night. But we're excited for more reasons than that. One of our best friends lives here and is hearing Trio live for the first time. Well, not really. He heard us a bunch when we were younger. But we weren't called Trio then, Lily said. Mostly because there were 4 of us. A band called Trio with 4 members would seem a little strange. Of course, we were still a little strange, but the audience had stopped milling around and raced to their seats when they saw Trio was performing. Now they were listening intently. They laughed at Lily's joke. We have developed quite a following over the last 3 years, Luke said. I recognize some of you folks from Bangor, Maine, last night. We can't tell you how nice it is to see friendly faces when we walk out here. But there is a side to Trio that even our most die-hard fans don't know. First off, as Lily said, we weren't always Trio, and we weren't always a trio. We started out as a garage band in North Olmsted, Ohio. And we've had a recording contract since we were 16 years old, Chloe added. Our first song was on the radio almost 10 years ago. Not that you would know it, but I can almost guarantee that you've heard it. In fact, there are probably 4 or 5 of our songs many of probably know by heart. At least you do if you were a child 10 years ago, or if you had children back then. Sophie was tugging on my arm. I shook my head and stared out at the stage. We were young and impulsive and naive and arrogant, Lily said. And we got screwed by our recording label, big time. At least we 3 did. The 4th member of our group was wiser. He protected his interests and refused to let the prospect of fame go to his head. The rest of us resented him for it. Luke took over. Because he refused to part with his dreams to go along with ours, we stopped being friends. I'm ashamed of the things we did back then. We all are, Chloe said. She was looking firmly at me. Sophie's tugging on my arm was more insistent. I looked at her. She mouthed one word. You? I nodded. The recording label that owned our songs also owned our soul, Lily said. We couldn't perform the songs. We couldn't say publicly that we performed the songs, and we couldn't perform under our original name because they owned that, too. But the person we pushed out of our band and out of our lives didn't give up on us. Before he left for Boston 8 years ago, he gave us several songs to perform. Those I guarantee everyone in the audience will recognize. Ethan, we treated you like crap, but you are the reason we're up here. I hope you know that. But what goes around, comes around, Luke said with a smile. The studio that owned our soul went belly up last year, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of scumsuckers. After much legal wrangling, we finally own the rights to the music I wrote, and the rights to the name we recorded our first songs under. And we want to publicly try to make amends for the mistakes we made, and the way we treated our friends those years before. Like Lily said, his words are the reason we're here. Of course the 4th member was smart enough to hold on to the rights to the words he wrote, Chloe said. But while the 3 of us dreamed of being up here on stage in front of the fans and being on tour in wonderful cities like Boston, his dreams were smaller in scale, but far more worthwhile in my opinion. He is an educator at a local school and, from what I've seen and heard, he is good at it. Those of you affiliated with Lake Howard Preparatory School know him as an English lit teacher. But we remember him a little differently. To me, he is the best friend I ever had, Luke said with a touch of sadness. To me, he is the brother I never wanted, Chloe said with a chuckle. Lily walked over and stood 10 feet in front of me and Sophie. And to me, he is the one who got away, she said. Ethan, you can stay in the wings if you want. And I understand if you want to. But I would love to hear you sing your songs one more time. I've worn out the CD I have of you singing over the years. Even if you stand off stage, please sing for us one more time. I hope you still remember the words. Lily looked toward the ground. I certainly do, she said as a tear glinted in the side of her eye. Sophie was looking up at me expectantly. I walked out to meet Lily. She wrapped her arms around me in a tight hug. Luke and Chloe soon joined us. Standing up in front of 20 kids 8 times a day for 2 years has lessened my stage fright, I said quietly to them. At least here, I don't have to worry about some little jerk-off nailing me with an eraser when my back is turned. The laughter that resonated in the arena told me the mic was still on. Sophie was almost on the floor laughing. Luke had a smile bigger than any that I've ever seen on him. Ladies and gentlemen, performing live for the first time ever, I give you Ethan Dumont on lead vocals, Lily Clark on keyboard, Chloe McPherson on lead guitar, and I am Luke Wyatt on drums. We are, he said, then paused. Or at least we were, the collection. There was a small gasp from some in the audience who recognized the name and the media frenzy from a few years back. Luke didn't hesitate. He whispered style over substance, and away we went. I thought we would just go down the demo list. I remembered most of the words and had even sung a few of them in the shower over the years. But when we finished the first song, Lily interrupted. If you heard my introduction of Ethan, then you know there is a companion piece to the song we just performed, she said. Style over substance was written about me more than 11 years ago. The words are real, and so is the story behind them. That's what makes it such a powerful song. Ethan has written many of our songs over the past few years. It's a talent that he has that the rest of us up here don't share. I think we're getting a little better. Honestly, I think we were just too shallow to be able to craft a decent song. We could make the words rhyme, but there was nothing to behind the words. Ethan has the ability to take what he sees and what he feels and translate it into something more. She smiled broadly. I'm sure that is what makes him a great teacher, she added. Our first forays into songwriting were disasters. The first song I ever wrote was called Schmaltzy, if I remember correctly. Honestly, the critique was accurate. The words rhymed, but there was no substance. I have the honor of writing the only song from the 3 of us to appear on any of our CDs. It's on the charts right now, but since Ethan is the inspiration behind the song, I hope no one minds if we sing it for him now. There is a real story behind this one too, she continued. And while I have the honor of writing it, I also had the heartache of living it. Ethan, would you sit beside me on the bench? I walked over and sat down. It's called The One Who Got Away, she said and started in on a lilting piano solo. Luke picked up a light beat later and Chloe played softly on an acoustic guitar. It was the song Sophie had heard on the radio a month before. I'm glad I hadn't paid attention to the lyrics at the time. Lily's song carried me through our teen years and into the present. The song was symbolic. She viewed me as a guy she wished she had found time for, but I was also the one who broke away from the group. I was the one who chose a different path. I'll admit that I'm somewhat biased, but I liked the song. I especially liked the feeling Lily put into the lyrics and the haunting melody that Luke had written to be played behind it. I touched Lily's cheek when she finished wiping away a tear. I miss you, Ethan, she said. I really want to make sure we have time to talk this week. It looked as if I was going to be doing a lot of talking that week. Who was I kidding? With Lily and Sophie, I would be doing little talking and a whole lot of listening. I stood up from the bench and walked over to Luke. He was looking at a list of songs he had on his drumhead. Can I pick one? I asked. He smiled. Chloe looked confused when I asked her for her guitar. I had learned to play from a French girl who was studying in England during my trip abroad. I learned a guy who can play a little guitar is a hit on the French beaches, especially if you have a wealth of schlocky love songs stored up in your head. I pulled out a stool and sat down in front of the mic. When the collection was being collective disowned by our recording label, these 3 were doing their best to keep things alive, I said. I, however, was vacationing in Europe for my 17th birthday. But one positive came from my visit to the continent. Well, actually, a lot of good things happened. I wrote about 20 songs that I passed off to Luke. And I learned to play the guitar so I wasn't such a useless lump on songs that I didn't sing. There is one other song in Tiger Tales. I turned to Luke. Can I say that? I asked. I mean, do I owe royalties to those a-holes now? He laughed out loud. I heard Lily and Chloe laughing too. You can say anything you want, he said. Okay. There is one other song in Tiger Tales that I wrote, I said. In fact, it's probably the favorite thing, at least to me, that I've ever written. I think I like it best because Lily and I would sit side by side and perform it. Chloe, do you recall that kickin' sax part that you wanted to add to this on the track? She nodded. I saw a sax back there, I mentioned, and she smiled. Chloe wound up playing a whole lot of instruments while I was a part of this group, mostly because I have no musical talent at all. So, I learned to play guitar so I could at least look like that I was contributing. I'll be the first to admit that I am nowhere near Chloe's proficiency on this thing. But I guess if I am honest, I'll admit that I always hoped we'd all get to play again. So I'm going to drag this stool over beside Lily again. And I hope you'll indulge me a few missed notes and listen to A View from a Fool. Chloe's sax portion added a completely new dimension to the song. The fact that she didn't have to play guitar opened up a range that we had never approached. She really went all out on the solo that concluded the song. Her face was red, but she was smiling like crazy. I hate you all, she said into the mic afterward. I mean, you all have great stories and favorite songs. Well, I have a favorite too. It's one of the songs Ethan wrote in Europe, and it's my favorite because he wrote it for me to sing. Someone in the crowd was a true fan because he screamed out, "To hell with them." In my limited knowledge of Trio, it was the only one where Chloe sang lead. That's right, she said. And it's my statement to so many people. It was also my personal motto for many years. So Luke, hit it. Luke clicked off the upbeat tempo, and Chloe laid down a screeching electric guitar lick. Lily started wailing on the piano. I took the opportunity to walk over to visit with Sophie, who was standing somewhat shell-shocked in the wings. She was shaking her head. You do have a great voice, she said in awe. And your butt looks terrific in your favorite shorts, I added with a smile. She returned the favor. Later, I want to show you something, she said. You won't believe it. What do you want to show me? I asked. I said show you and I said later, she said playfully. But Ethan, why did you never mention this? I mean, Jesus. You know I love these guys. And the collection? When I was in my teens, I went nuts when they didn't have Style Over Substance on the soundtrack. I mean, I saw the video and I love the song. I love the song. It really pissed me off when I went out and bought the soundtrack and it wasn't on there. I finally recorded the music video off the web. I still have it, Ethan. I still watch it. I didn't know what to say. It ended badly, I finally answered. And we've always kept a portion of our lives personal. It's one of the things I like best about us. We understand there are things we'll talk about when we're ready and not before. Just like your childhood. I know that's off limits for now. She patted my arm gently. The song is finishing up, she said. You probably should go back out there. I nodded. You're not off the hook for later, I said jokingly. I'm hoping it's always been your fantasy to flash a rock star. Is it your jugs you want to show me later? She laughed and raised her eyebrows in mock sultriness. Actually, it's my something else, she said and pushed me back on stage. The next 45 minutes were surreal. It was like being back in time, but with a different perspective to all the angst we were feeling at the time. Instead of worrying about things, we just enjoyed it. It was one of the finest times of my life. But it had to end. We wrapped up with the only original song from the collection that no one had ever heard. I was surprised that the group still remembered the music, and that I still remembered the words to The First Day of Winter. Luke had arranged it so symmetrically. There was no overlap, just meshing. I wondered why the studio hadn't chosen it for the movie. I understood when I walked off to see Sophie crying. That is the saddest song I ever heard, she said. Ethan, is that how you feel about me? I didn't get the chance to answer because Luke, Chloe, and Lily were gathered around us. Come with us, Lily said. I have never had that much fun on stage. Seriously, Luke added. Think about it. Just for the rest of the summer. Another 3 weeks. It could be great fun. I'd love you forever if you did, Chloe chipped in. Shit, I already used that one. Okay, I'll think of some way to make it worth your while. Lily slapped her arm, pretty hard. Bitch, Chloe said playfully. 304, Lily replied not quite as playfully. Luke just shrugged. He gets that from me, and led me and Sophie away. We're going to take about 25 minutes to get things together and relax before we go back out, he said. Do you want to hang with us in the green room, or do you want to hang loose for a while? Green room, Sophie said. Can I pretend to be a groupie? Luke looked at me for the answer. After you show me something, you can do whatever you want, I answered. What have I walked into? Luke asked no one in particular. Sophie and I just smiled. So, what is your answer? She asked as we walked down the short hallway. To what? I wondered, then I remembered her question. I'm not sure. I was like 14 years old when I wrote that song. The whole world was a screwed up place when you're 14. I think what I feel for you is a more adult version of that though. Sophie pulled me into an unused room. 2 things, she said. Then I'll show you my kitty cat. I started to laugh until I saw how serious Sophie was. Lily spoke to me when I first came inside, she said. She was waiting for me, and she wanted to talk to me alone. I wasn't sure where this was going. She told me her song was about you, she said. She also told me a few other things that she wants to tell you herself, so I'll wait for those. But she told me that she could tell just from the sound of your voice what you felt for me. She told me not to expect you to wait around while I searched for something better. That is how she lost you. Ethan, I'm not waiting for something better. I know I'll never find someone better. I just can't find a way to convince my head that we can be anything more than friends. I'm sorry. I nodded my understanding. I recognize this evening that we can still be almost as friendly as we used to be, I said. I'm sorry for thinking we couldn't. I guess I have grown up a little in the last 10 years or so. The situation with you and me, and what happened with Lily are different. We'll be okay, and I'll eventually move on. I am, however, worried about what will happen to our friendship when one of us decides to move on. Sophie looked at the floor. That is what I'm worried about, she said. That is what I was thinking about when you came in tonight. I don't want to sit somewhere 10 years later and be like Lily. I don't want to compare every guy to you and know before I do it that he'll come up short. That is what she does, you know. I didn't believe it. I think you're overstating it, I told her. I did the same for a lot of years. Not the teenage girl I knew, but hell, I liked Lily since I was this tall. I held my hand about 4 feet off the floor. I'm not overstating it, she said. She told me almost word for word what I just said. Well, if it is any consolation, I'll compare them all to you now and they'll come up way short, I said with a rueful smile. What was the second thing? She stared at me for a minute. Lily wants to try to get you back, she said. The real reason she wanted to talk to me was to ascertain our relationship. I got the first thing I told you when I said we were friends. She cares enough about you that she was willing to let things be if we were together and happy. My eyes widened. Lily can't get back what she never had in the first place, I stated. She never felt that way about me. Didn't you listen to the words? Sophie asked. Talk to her. She paused. I'm not sure of how I feel about things, Ethan, she told me. Maybe in the future, when my head is right, I'll think differently and I'll regret it. But for now, I guess, if you still have feelings for Lily, you should explore them. I chuckled. For now, you're supposed to be revealing something, I said, trying to steer the conversation lightly. The excitement I felt just moments earlier on stage was quickly fading, and I was growing tired of serious talk. Do you know how long I've waited to see what you were hinting at? I teased. Sophie shook her head, a sly smile on her face. Well, this might spoil you for surprises in the future, she said. She tugged the side of her shorts down slightly, revealing something unexpected. A small tattoo of a character from Tiger Tales, the very character that had sung the songs I wrote. I told you I love the song, she said. You should have told me you wrote it and sang it. Back then, I didn't dream about meeting a rock star. I dreamed about the guy who sang those songs. When I was 18, I got this tattoo to remind me of those days. Now you tell me this? I said in mock horror. If I'd known, I could have sung you a song a year ago and swept you off your feet. Oh, please. I didn't swoon earlier, did I? She replied playfully. I have to admit, after all the build-up, the big reveal was a bit underwhelming. I joked. She playfully slapped my arm, laughing. Just be careful, she said, if you decide to spend time with Lily. If she hurts you again, trio will become duet pretty quickly. Those are also paraphrased from my conversation with her. We found ourselves at my humble home, all 5 of us, after the show. The energy level didn't wane. We were all joking and laughing. A few beers after the show, and we all piled into my car for the trip back to Chelsea. Luke seemed pretty happy to have Sophie sitting on his lap. I was reserving judgment on that development. Lily sat up front and kept up a light patter with me. Chloe sat in the back with a bemused look. She would glance to her left at Luke and Sophie, and then toward me in the front. When we hit the house, Chloe was to the point. Where are we sleeping? She asked. It's after 1 a.m. and I'm beat. I've been awake since 5 a.m. So point me in a direction. Are we all staying here? I asked. I have one extra room and a couch. Unless we share, someone gets the floor. Sophie, you're not driving. I saw how many beers you drank. I get the spare room, Chloe said. I don't care who sleeps with me unless you snore. That means Luke's out. I do not snore, he insisted. I stayed awake all night once to check. Lily and I groaned and Carrie rolled her eyes. But Sophie laughed like it was funnier than anything she had ever heard. I was certain that I had made better jokes than that. I noticed Lily watching my reaction closely. Take the spare room, Lily said. I'll share space with you. That left 3 of us and only 2 beds. It looked as if I would be sleeping alone if Sophie's reaction to Luke was any indication. Oh well, got a minute for a private chat? Lily asked me. I looked it over at Sophie and Luke who were enmeshed in a conversation, so I nodded. So, how you been? She asked jokingly. Any surprises recently? A couple, I admitted ruefully. How about you? No surprises, she said. But a couple of interesting things have happened. We spent a minute or two talking before Lily got to the point. Do you think we can put things aside from the past? She asked. Is it possible that we can take a little while and get to know each other again? I won't pretend that things can go back to when we were 14. I'm sorry I was so stupid. Come on, Lily, I said. You were popular and pretty. I was average in just about everything. You shouldn't be surprised that I had a crush on you. It's not a surprise to me that you didn't think of me that way. You could have any guy you wanted. It's not a shock that you didn't want me. I did want you, she insisted. The song I wrote was from the heart, Ethan. I knew everything. I knew how much courage it took for you to ask me out. And I wanted to go. Then I saw a chance to increase my popularity. I mean, girls were waiting in line to go out with that guy. I figured I would go out with him once. Let everyone see me out with him, and that would be it. Then when you asked me out again, we'd get together. Except you never asked me again. And even when I hinted that I wanted you to ask me, you didn't. You asked someone else. Instead of telling you how much I really wanted to go to homecoming with you, I let my pride tell you that I only wanted to go as friends. I didn't. I knew that Chloe and Luke wanted to go solo. That's why I pressed her on it so much. I knew she would get fed up and tell me off. She finally did, you know. The only one who didn't play his part was you. I don't think it would have worked anyway, I said. By that time, my feelings for you were dwindling. Lily looked at the floor. Why wouldn't they? She asked. I was a bitch. I broke a date to go out with someone else because I was shallow. I tried to manipulate you into taking me to homecoming. I did manipulate you into joining the band. I tried to browbeat you into doing everything I wanted you to. When you stood up for yourself, I turned mental. I hated you, Ethan. I was embarrassed that you saw through me. I was so angry that you knew me for who I was, and you broadcast that to the world. If you'll remember, I was opposed to it, I stated. I know, she said. It took me a while before I realized how much it must have hurt you to know what you knew. It took me a while to stop looking at things from a selfish angle. Then I realized what we had done to you, what I had done to you. Then I thought about you from another side. I looked at the situation from your perspective. You didn't ask us to give up anything for you. You didn't ask me to change. You accepted me as I was. You just didn't want to date me. I wasn't sure if that was what happened, but I guess it was close to the truth. I'm not the same girl I used to be, Lily said. Now that I'm an adult, I've recognized how childish and insignificant the things I thought were important were. I just want the time to show you that I'm more like the girl you liked than the one who lost you. I'm not opposed to that, Lily, I said. I've missed you and Luke and Chloe, but you have to admit that our lives are on pretty divergent paths. Actually, I don't think I'm even on a path. I found a spot that I like. You found what you've always wanted. Lily smiled slightly. Maybe I've found part of what I wanted, she said. I admit that I wanted to do what I'm doing. I enjoy it, and I like parts of being famous. But this isn't the only thing I want out of my life. You want it all, I said in what I hoped was a playful voice. You always did. I probably should have left the last sentence off, but I didn't. I found I didn't regret it. I did want it all, she admitted. I wanted you to wait for me to be ready for you. I wanted people to know who I was, and I wanted them to envy me. I wanted the money and the fame. I've got everything but the first. Laughter escaped before I could stop it. I know. I was self-centered enough to expect that you would wait, Ethan, she said sadly. All I'm asking is that you let me spend time with you. How are we to do that? I said. My life doesn't exactly lend itself to 100-day, 70-city tours. There are reasons why relationships between famous people and normal people don't work. This time it was Lily who laughed. I'm not sure you qualify as a normal person, she joked, but our life isn't going to like this forever. We're coming off the road at the end of the tour. It hasn't been released yet, but Chloe is getting married in December. Your manager? I asked. I had seen them in the green room after the show, and they seemed to have more than a working relationship. Astute observation, Lily mused. You picked that up quickly. They are always professional at the venues. What did you see? Nothing really, I said. Chloe was always somewhat reticent to show emotion. I mean, we all saw the big ones. Happy, sad, angry. But you had to really be close to her to get some of the lesser ones. I could tell she was close to him because she was willing to cry in front of him. Lily nodded. See, you're not normal, she said. No one else would have noticed that. I had noticed some other things, but I decided it probably wasn't the best time to mention it. And we're taking a few months off after, Lily continued. I'd like to spend some of that time in Boston. Boston is a pretty big city, I said. I'm sure you could get clearance if you used your influence. I want to spend part of that with you, she amended. It looks like Luke might want to spend part of that time here, too. Are you okay with that? Undecided, I said. But there were some things I had made a firm decision about. Lily, I said, I think it will be fine for us to try to rebuild the friendship we lost. If we can do that, more might come from it. But I think it would be hasty for either of us to look any farther than friendship for the time being. I could see Lily was unhappy with my pronouncement, but she recovered quickly. That's all I'm hoping for, Ethan, she said. Anything more will have to come from a basis in friendship to be successful. But Ethan, I know how I feel about you. Unfortunately, I had a pretty good idea how she felt about me, too. The house was dark when we walked back inside. I dared not enter the living room for fear of what I might see. Instead, I walked with Lily down the hallway and showed her to where she would be sleeping. She glanced toward the door to my bedroom, but instead of saying anything, she gave me a soft kiss on the cheek. "See you in the morning," she said cheerfully. I nodded and watched her enter the room she would share with Chloe. I opened the door to my room with a sigh, and I was startled to see a light coming from beneath my bathroom door. "Be out in a minute," I heard Sophie say. Sure enough, a few moments later she emerged wearing a pair of my shorts and a t-shirt. "I borrowed some clothes," she stated. "I left my toothbrush in there. Is that okay?" I figured I would need it again in the morning. Sophie and I had spent the night at the other's house, her in my spare room and me on her couch, on a few occasions, usually after we split a six-pack or a bottle of wine. So we each had a toothbrush at the other's abode. Sophie's usually resided in half bath and next to the spare room. "It's fine," I said. "I'm going to get ready for bed. I'll see you in the morning." She nodded and padded over to the nightstand where she sat a glass of water she had been carrying. "Do you sleep on the right or left side?" she asked. Either," I said. "Sometimes in the middle. Sometimes I just sprawl from corner to corner." "Why? You don't get the whole bed tonight," she said. "I sleep better my right side. Is it okay if I take the left half?" I shrugged my assent and went to brush my teeth and rid myself of the 2 beers I had. Sophie was lying directly in the middle when I came out. "I can take the floor if you want," I told her. She shook her head and patted the bed beside her. There was barely room for me, but Sophie didn't move. Instead, she put her head on my shoulder and her arm across my chest. "I love you, Ethan," she said. "I think I always have." I lay on my back looking at the ceiling and listening to Sophie talk. "I was worried about you," she said. "And so was Luke. Tonight was an act. I didn't like what I saw this evening and neither did he. I'm sorry if I hurt you, Ethan. It wasn't what either of us wanted." "I wasn't hurt," I said. "I was maybe a little out of sorts. But Luke is a good guy. I knew he would never hurt you. Mostly, I just want you to be happy." "I'm glad you said that," she told me. "And you're right. Luke is a good guy and he would never hurt me. But he would hurt me before he hurt you again. I saw you looking at us from time to time. The whole thing was just to protect you." "Well, that, and to protect me, too." I was going to ask for an explanation for the last statement when my bedroom door opened slowly. I worried that it would be Lily, but it was Chloe instead. Her eyes widened when she took in the scene on the bed. I didn't expect you here," she said, not kindly I should add, to Sophie. "You didn't strike me as the bed-hopping type. But what do I know?" Sophie smiled and patted the spot on the bed beside her. "I was just telling Ethan about my nefarious scheme to watch out for him," Sophie said. "Luke and I saw a couple of things tonight that didn't sit well with us. Okay, I decided to try to keep Ethan off balance to make sure he wasn't steamrolled." Chloe smiled. "I told you I liked this one," she said. "It was what I was coming in here to talk to him about." I could feel Sophie shift closer to me. "Chloe, I don't mean any offense, so please don't be mad," she said. "But I think I know Ethan better than you do. I knew if I started acting like a shit, he'd watch out for me. I do the same for him, by the way." "Unfortunately," I chimed in, "we know this from first-hand experience." Sophie continued as if I hadn't spoken. "So, I convinced Luke to play along," she said. "I latched on to him, and we pretended to drink excessively and act like we were enamored with the other. So, I sat on his lap in the car and laughed at all his jokes. But I knew it would be enough to keep Ethan distracted so that he wouldn't let himself be lulled into security. He would be watchful for me. He would make sure I didn't disappear for too long, and he would keep an eye on everyone else in the room, too." Chloe laughed. "Judging from where you're lying, I assume it worked," she said. "Honestly, I don't think Lily even noticed what she was doing." "I agree," Sophie said. "Are we talking about the basketball players?" Chloe nodded. "When she did that, Luke had a look of sheer frustration on his face." Sophie continued. "Ethan, do you know what we're talking about?" It was something else I had noticed. "Nope," I deadpanned. "I'm a complete moron who was so overcome with emotion at the reunion that all my senses just went on vacation." Sophie and Chloe looked at one another. "Okay, so you know," Sophie said. "At least there is that. Anyway," Luke looked at me and said, "Security blanket?" "Exactly," Chloe said. "Lily doesn't act that way. She is usually polite but completely shy around guys like that. But now that Ethan was around, she knew that he would be there when she got back. I was so mad that I started to cry. I just wanted to grab her and shake her." "Oh, I wouldn't have stopped at shaking," Sophie said. When she handed Ethan her drink and left him standing there for 10 minutes while she chatted up those Celtics players, I just about lost it. You were dangerously close to having to rename your group again. She gave one of them her number, for Christ's sake. I know, Chloe said in a shocked voice. Mark had to stop me from going over there. He seems like a nice guy, I said, mostly just to contribute to the conversation. I hope you two are very happy. Chloe smiled. You're right, she told Sophie. Ethan was on high alert. I bet I can name every male you've cried in front of in your life, I said. You have to feel especially close to someone before you'll do that. I felt another hand on my arm. You're right, she said, and I won't take your bet. You always were so much more aware of everyone else than we were. You were always such a good friend. So, I'm going to be a good friend and go back to bed. May I assume that you told Lily that anything past friendship is out? I told her we had to work on becoming friends again first. I told them, look, I understood what was happening. When she saw those guys walk into the green room, I saw the look on her face. The next thing I know, it's like we're 15 again. I'm holding her glass and she's holding court. Do you really think I would miss that, or put myself through that again? I didn't know, Ethan, Sophie admitted. I know you held pretty powerful feelings for her. Those don't go away easily. No, I admitted. They don't. But they do go away eventually. I really do appreciate the lengths you went to. And I'm glad the three of you feel close enough to me to want to protect me. But I was in no danger of just walking blindly into something. Sophie, you know me better than that. I do, she said. But I don't know Lily. I mean, she seems nice enough. And Luke was quick to tell me that what she did is out of the norm. I also expect she would have ditched the basketball players in a heartbeat if she saw me talking to you. If I got within 10 feet of you all evening, she grabbed your arm or steered you away. I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but she was somewhat territorial. So, I hatched my brilliant scheme. Chloe laughed as she walked to the door. I'm going to lock this, she said. Lily asked me if I thought you would mind a late-night visitor. I told you that I suspected you might want a little bit of time to mull the situation. She stopped and turned back to Sophie. Next time, do my blood pressure a favor and let me know what's going on, she said. I was as mad at you and Luke as I was at Lily. Sophie dipped her head and smiled. Didn't you say something about going back to bed? She asked jokingly. Chloe flipped her off and went through the door. Okay, so you know about the plan, Sophie said after returning to her spot on my shoulder. She took my hand and placed it on her hip. Now I want to tell you the rest of it. When I saw you walking into the room with Lily holding onto your arm, I was worried. At least I thought I was worried. I didn't want you hurt again. The longer you stood talking to her, the worse it got. Then I realized that I had felt the feeling before. It was right before school ended when Ollie Thompson asked about you. My ears perked up. Ollie Thompson asked about me? I asked playfully. And I'm just now hearing about it? Sophie gracefully plucked one of my few chest hairs. It hurt. She asked me if you and I were dating. She informed me. I told her that we were just friends. She got a sad look and told me she wished she would have known that earlier, but she would certainly be in contact with you as soon as she got back to Boston. Okay, I said. I'm not sure I see where this is going. But, okay. She is going to ask you out as soon as her summer teaching post is over and she is back in town. Moron, Sophie said, and another of my chest hairs was gone. I felt the exact same way when Ollie said she planned to ask you out as I did when I saw you standing with Lily. It wasn't worry. It was jealousy. And not jealousy that someone else was going to be your friend. It was because someone else was going to be your girlfriend. You were right, Ethan, when you said our friendship wouldn't withstand one of us dating someone else. I didn't realize it at the time, but it is a fact. I groaned. So now I get to be celibate, I said. Fantastic. You're not paying attention, she said. You're out of chest hairs. But I'll go lower if I have to. Now focus. I did my best to comply. I was jealous because I want to be your girlfriend, she said. I was jealous because I am totally, hopelessly, desperately in love with you. I don't want you to date anyone except for me. Oh, I said. Oh, Sophie laughed and I felt her hand slide down my chest. I grasped it quickly. I lay my heart bare and I get, oh, what changed your mind? I said. Nothing changed my mind, she said. I've always felt this way about you. It was just so different, so much better than I felt about another guy. I didn't see it for what it was. I was so scared of being hurt or of hurting you that I just closed my eyes. Even when we talked last week, I refused to admit it to myself. I'm sorry that I had to have someone make a play for you right before my eyes before it hit me. Sophie's hand was tracing circles on my chest. I stammered. I was met with the giggle that I so enjoyed. That's what I love most about you, she said. You're so articulate. Your vocabulary leaves me speechless. I chucked involuntarily. Are you serious? I asked. Not really, she confessed. Sometimes your vocabulary is a bit repetitive. Not about that, I said. Is this still part of your plan to make sure I don't make a mistake? Because I got the point if it is. Sophie's hand stopped abruptly, and she sat up. No, Ethan, Sophie said with tears in her eyes. No, it was a bad idea, what I pulled tonight. But I would never toy with your emotions. I would never play with your mind this way. Just checking, I said. Sorry, I'm a little off-kilter. Things are moving a little fast. Let's sit down tomorrow and figure out how your revelation affects things. Sophie stared at me. More tears came to her eyes, so I clarified. I don't want you to rush into anything, I said quickly. I don't want you changing your mind about something you were so adamant about earlier this week. Hell, earlier tonight. Because of you had a couple of beers and got maudlin. I'm not maudlin, Sophie insisted in a sultry voice. But sure, if I wake up after cuddling with you all night long and holding you close to me, feeling your body next to me and decide I've changed my mind, no hard feelings, right? She rested her leg across my middle and guided my hand to her hip. She left it there for a moment before gently moving it lower. Don't you dare move that hand, she said. She tilted my head toward her and kissed me gently. I love you. Night. Amazingly, I awoke in the same position as I fell asleep. Sophie's head rested on my shoulder with her arm across my chest. The puddle of drool on my chest suggested she had slept soundly. My hand had moved down to her waist, and I began to pull it back, but she held it in place. She said. The hand stays, even if I have to remove it from your wrist. Lily was sitting at the table with Luke and Chloe when I came down the hallway. They seemed to be having an intense conversation. She smiled brightly when she saw me. The smile faded quickly when she saw Sophie was tagging along behind me, pinching my butt as she followed me down the hall. I'm not certain Lily saw Sophie pinch me, but she certainly saw me jump. Hi, she said. Did you guys sleep well? I asked. I got 2 nods and a blank stare. Lily glanced toward Luke. Then she glanced toward Chloe. Then she glanced toward me. Then she glared toward Sophie. So, what's the plan for today? Sophie asked sweetly. What time do you guys have to back in the city? We should be there by 5, Chloe said with a smile. Do we have time for a tour of the city? I've always wanted to see the harbor and Bunker Hill. I looked at Luke, who was trying to stifle a smile. Yeah, I said. We can do a tour, have some chatta, maybe even visit Hyannisport. You know, the Kennedy compound. Hey Luke, you want to check out Harvard? Okay, my Boston accent is awful, but chatta is chowder and Harvard is Harvard. I'll try not to do that again. Not so much, he said. Although, I could find me a rich woman to take me away from all this. Chloe coughed. It sounded like she said bullshit, but I couldn't be sure. Why don't you call Mark? I suggested. It can be family fun time. I tried to get tickets for a Red Sox game. They're in Baltimore this week. Maybe Lily can score us some Celtics tickets next season, Luke said. I mean, when the guy calls you. Hell, Luke, I said, but Chloe cut me off. No, Ethan, she said. I'm interested in learning if we can get tickets. I'd love to see the King play in the Garden. Can you set that up for us, Lily? Lily didn't know where to look. I just gave him a fake number to leave me alone, she said. Then she closed her eyes. I gave him my number, she admitted. And I have no idea why. I certainly don't want to go out with him. Guys, it's okay, I said. It's not okay, Lily screeched. God damn it. Why in the hell do I do things like this? What in the hell goes through my head? Jesus, Ethan. I'm so sorry. That was so screwed up for me to act that way. I shrugged. Actually, you probably did Ethan a huge favor, Sophie said. I know you did me a huge favor. Do you remember our conversation yesterday? Well, I come to a realization when I saw you with Ethan. And I came to a bigger decision when I saw you tool Ethan over for a douchebag from the Celtics. Come on. A Sox player. I get. A Celtic. Get real. I tilted an eye towards Sophie. Oh, please, Ethan, she said. That closer comes on to me. You are toast. You can pick someone, too. It's fair. Ooh, Chloe said. Pick me. Pick me. We'll go straight to the bedroom. Come on. Ethan. You're my freebie with Mark, so we can totally do it. Lily didn't seem amused. What? I'm a celebrity too, Chloe insisted. Oh hell, Sophie said. I forgot you actually have access to getting laid by celebrities. Okay, the Red Sox closer is out. Chloe, put your panties back on. Okay, I actually looked to see if she was joking. Of course she was, but Sophie still slapped my arm, hard. What? I said. I always pictured Chloe as a thong girl. I was checking to see if I was right. Granny panties, Lily said. Now if you would have checked mine out. Chloe tossed a piece of toast at Lily. Grannies? She asked. I am so not grannies. But I'll admit that I don't like floss in my butt either. Luke simply shook his head. So, you want to hit the harbor first? He asked. Are you going on tour with them? Sophie asked me after our day in Boston. No, I said. That was fun last night, but one night only is best for the reunion of the collection. I thought for a few moments longer. Without last night, I might have, I continued. But I think I'm ready to put that behind me and move forward with my life. You can go if you want to, she insisted. I mean, we're not married or anything. I couldn't help it. I smiled. So that means when we get married that I can no longer make decisions for myself? I wondered. Exactly, Sophie said. Well, some decisions, she added. Maybe. I'll probably let you pick a couple of small decisions to start out with. If you prove you can make the little ones, I'll let you move up. Nothing serious. You won't ever get to make a big decision again. But I will accept your input before I make the big decisions. I think she was serious. Are your friends still staying for the week? She asked. Yeah, I said. Even Lily wants to stay. We're just going to hang out. You're welcome to join us, you know. Oh, you can bet I'll be there, she said. I think maybe we should use your house and my apartment to house everyone. Is Mark staying too? I think so, I said. So, Mark and Chloe and Lily can stay at my apartment, she said. You, me and Luke at your place. That way everyone gets a bed, or at least a couch. Just so you don't plan to reenact your ruse with Luke, I joked. Otherwise, it's Lily at our house, Luke at the apartment. Our house? Sophie asked. Sorry, slip of the tongue, I said. Hey, you said it yourself, she stated. We've been dating for more than a year. Without the sex, I cut in. I've bought you dinner. I've taken you to ball games and plays. Still you don't come across. I was trying to be lighthearted. If your friends weren't over last night, you would have seen, she said. I mean, you woke up with your hand on my butt. Yeah, sorry about that, I replied. Ha, Sophie said. I put it there. I was going to try for down the front of my shorts, but your elbow doesn't bend that way. Want to skip the show tonight? We can go back to our house, play around for a while, then pick up the gang after and go clubbing. Nah, I answered. No quickies for us. At least not yet. Sophie patted my arm gently. This is not weird, she said. I couldn't be sure if she was being facetious, so I said nothing. I mean it, she continued. Absolutely nothing has changed with us. We added a new element, but I think it was always there, so it's natural. I'm happy, Ethan. I really am. It's not too late to go back to the way things were, I said. I mean, it might be awkward, but we'll be okay. Is that what you want? She asked suddenly. Do you want to go back to the way things were? It's okay. I cut her off. This is what I've always wanted, I said. I've always felt this way about you. I've always hoped that this is how we'd end up. I got a smile and a warm kiss. I really enjoyed the way Sophie kissed me. It almost left me breathless. I think tonight we let the group have our house and you and I take our apartment instead, she said. We'll switch back tomorrow night if you want, but tonight I want you to myself. I didn't want to argue with her sentiment, but I figured I would let the night play out. The green room was a buzz of activity when Sophie and I walked in. Luke, Chloe and Lily were going over some lineup changes and Mark was off in a corner on his cell phone. He smiled and waved when he saw us. Sophie and I stood watching for a moment before everyone suddenly crowded around us. Can you sing with us tonight? Chloe asked. Were you serious about releasing the rights to your songs? Mark wondered. What have you been doing for the past 90 minutes? Luke joked. Lily was silent, but she was still there. I glanced toward her with raised eyebrows. Luke took mine, she said. I smiled. Okay, here goes, I said. No, yes, and none of your business. The four of them looked at one another. He doesn't plan to sing, Sophie clarified. He plans to release his songs to you. And we've been hanging out and talking. Everyone seemed satisfied except Chloe. Why don't you want to sing? Last night was more fun than I can ever remember, she said. It was, I said. I had a great time. It exceeded by far my wildest imagination of what it would be like. That is perhaps the best reason I can think of for leaving things as they are. Nothing could top last night. Anything I would do tonight would be less than it. Lily smiled at me. Go out on top? She asked. Something like that, I replied. But that's not all of it. I mean, I really enjoyed watching you three last night. I really enjoyed spending time you all today and yesterday. I really enjoyed waking up this morning with the woman I love. Hell, I'll never have a better 24 hours than the past 24 hours. Lily glanced away, but I could see a tear in her eye. Yeah, Ethan, she murmured. I'm happy for you. I really am. Sophie put her hand on Lily's shoulder. It was a move that surprised me. I'm sure it surprised Lily as well. You get to be friends, Lily, she said softly. It is more than you could hope for if you dated and things ended. Look at your lives. You have very little in common, and you haven't seen each other in 8 years. Ethan is way different from what you remember. I'm sure you are different, too. But do you really see Ethan giving up his career to travel with you? Or do you see yourself giving up your career to stay here with him? Lily was barely audible when she replied. No, she said, but I figured we'd find a way. Chloe added her arm around Lily. If Mark wasn't on tour with us, we never would have gotten together, she said. Even if we would have, it would have been hard to stay together. After our break, we'll all be ready to hit it hard again. That means 9 or 10 months out of the year. You'd be in one place and he'd be in another. You two don't know each other well enough for that to work. Lily smiled gamely. I never really got to that part in my head, she confessed. I never really got past the part where we meet again. I tell him how I feel and we fall in love. The reality doesn't live up the fantasy. It never would have, I told her. Even if everything fell into place like you imagined, the real world would always have intervened. But I am happy that you and I are going to try to regain the friendship we lost. I lost, Lily said bitterly. The friendship I lost. Sophie hugged her a little harder. But now you get 2 friends for the price of 1, she said. And I can be a pretty good friend, even to a dumb like Ethan. The week was enjoyable for me on many levels. Luke and I settled back into an easy friendship. We had always felt comfortable around the other. There were portions of the other's lives that we had missed, and we caught up on those. But mostly we reminisced about the jokes we'd played and the girls we chased. It was nice to come to grips with that portion of my life. I also spent time with Lily and Chloe. I was never as close to them as I was to Luke, but we had been friends. Chloe filled me in on her upcoming wedding and made constant jokes about things we'd done when we were younger. Lily wasn't as talkative. The conversations with her were more reflective. She wanted to clear the air about our past, but I considered the subject to be closed. It was in the past, and some portions of the past are better forgiven and forgotten. I was somewhat surprised how easily the 4 of us found common ground. I was equally surprised at how easily Sophie slipped into the group. So I suppose it comes at no shock that I was surprised at how easy it was for Sophie and me to reinvent our relationship. I had expected some awkwardness, but really there was none. I had expected some reluctance on her part, but if there was any, I didn't see it. We simply went from friends to lovers. Perhaps it was a natural progression. The time Sophie and I shared alone was limited while Luke, Chloe, and Lily were around. But after 4 activity-filled days, the trio from Trio went back to their lives. And Sophie and I got started on making one together. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.